Okay, and we should be live. I don't know if anybody's out there watching. If you can let us know if you can hear me, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, we're gonna do a stream talking about Castles and Crusades. I figured maybe we'll probably end up hitting the 2 hour mark because I like to talk, and we've got 5 people total that also like to talk. So yeah, I think yeah. so just want to go around and do some introductions. Um, Obviously, I'm Roger. Been running games for I don't know too long now. A number of years that I probably don't want to say because I'll get it wrong. But it's got to be close to 35 years, 34 years, something like that I've been running. So
How old are you now?
that's been a while. Too old. 46. 46. So yeah. Yeah. So that would be
Since you were
Jesus.
10 or 11, thereabouts?
Jesus. Yeah, 11. Yeah, I think I was 11.
This seems to be like the common entry point for most people. I was about 11.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, probably. That's like the age, right, where you start to
Mhm.
like you finally like get away from your parents or whatever, or can I don't want to make this sound terrible, but where you finally like can do things on your own, maybe, or start to do things on your own and
Yeah.
start to develop your own habits and stuff. To my right, yeah, right on the screen is is Joe. Joe, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm just here because I'm friends with the talent, really. You know, play RPGs once in a while.
Who's that? The talent.
I was to your right, so you're to my left, right?
Oh,
Let's not have him laughing.
So, and then there's Jason. He's been around in our play group for a while now.
Yeah, 6 years and counting.
Has it been just 6 years? Seems longer than that.
Yeah, I moved here and I retired in 2016. I moved here early 2018, I think. Think that's right.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, almost 7 years now, probably. Yeah. Well, yeah, this year's almost out.
Mm-hmm. So I guess
yeah.
I have to check the wife. We either moved here 2018 or 2019, so 6 or 7 years, something like that.
Yeah, we've been playing ever since, right? Because it was pretty quick after you moved here.
Yeah, about 3 weeks. Yeah,
3 weeks. Wow,
for everything. Yeah, I got a story for everything, and that one's interesting, but save it for another day, I think.
Yeah, right. And then below him, we got Ken. Ken, we've known. Yeah, Ken. I got introduced to Ken from Joe, and that was 2 months ago, maybe.
Yeah,
and
actually,
we had met.
We met at
convention, I think,
at the con. Yeah, that was the first meeting.
It was the first time we met. But actually, like official, like started, hanging out or whatever, But yeah. And is there anything you want to add to that, Ken? I don't want to sound like I'm taking over.
I also have played a lot of RPGs, and I like trying a bunch of different systems, and have been having fun with Castles and Crusades with the team here.
Yeah, fantastic. And then to his left, we've got George. And George, I believe this is all his fault because I think George was the one that, I think, George, you're the one that introduced Castles and Crusades to me.
Wow.
So I think
now we know
blame
George.
you for this whole thing.
I thought
it was Jason. Well, no, I think
George
Jason
was our first.
to it.
George was our GM at a con.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
You introduced me to the game, to the concept, and all of that. But George was the first GM. Is that that's what I meant?
Yeah. And it was a mutual friend of mine and George's that introduced me into CNC. We were playing 5e at the time, and I met George at one of the cons we were at.
Yeah, I think it was Gary Con 2023.
Yes, that sounds right. And I think you ran 2 of our games or something like that.
Yeah.
But we hit it off really well. I mean, the games went great after that. We just put on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I met George. This was a few years ago now. Had to have been 4 years ago, maybe at MEPA, probably.
Yeah. You both of you guys started coming down to MEPA pretty regularly after that.
Yeah.
And,
all for you, buddy.
Yeah,
that's right.
There's not a lot at MEPACon, so there is, but there isn't.
And so, how long have you been gaming, George?
I started back in we can't tell if it's 84 or 85, but
oof, you got me beat by a few years.
I was just a diehard D&Der. My cousin brought every other game, Shadowrun, Cyberpunk, you name it, Top Secret. And I was like, aren't we playing D&D again tonight?
Yeah.
Marvel superheroes, and he just put them all aside and played D&D because I was the only person he could play with for a while.
Yeah, cool. And we got Ducato, who dropped in. Who I'm pointing in the wrong direction. It's down that way. I don't know which way these cameras work. Cameras are hard. Ducato of Troll Den Painting. This guy is an amazing painter. Let me tell you. Seen some of his work. It is absolutely amazing.
Very cool.
But what you want to give us a little introduction? How long you been playing RPGs and stuff for? And
yeah. So name's Ducato Stan. I must have started about the same year as George, maybe a little bit earlier, probably a little bit earlier. My cousin introduced me to D&D, and that's what we mostly played. Dipped our toes in Shadowrun a little bit, not much, and then West End Games Star Wars, played a lot of that actually.
D6 Star Wars, man, that's great. Yeah.
It's the only good version of that game, my
Preach.
opinion, but that's my opinion. Matter of fact, somewhere here. Yep. Nope. Somewhere on this table, there's a bunch of those books.
Mine are right back there.
So, probably early 80s.
Yeah.
Small, so
yeah, I was in the late 80s, and that's when I first at a garage sale found the Moldvay basic box set.
God, you're lucky.
And that was down in Maryland. Yeah, but I mean that was in the late 80s. I mean,
it was everywhere.
It wasn't like $100 or whatever. It was like $10. Because nobody wanted it. Right. Everybody was buying.
I have copies.
Second edition stuff.
I have copies of. Which is I always get confused. Which one has the Errol Otis covers?
That's the Moldvay.
Moldvay. I have copies of those. That was what I was introduced to. That's what my cousin would stay with us in the summers to work our farm, and he had D&D. He was older than me, and that's what he introduced me with. And then years later, many years later, I was in my 20s. I mean, I had Redbox and AD&D and all that stuff, but I was in a used bookstore, and they had it, and I think I paid no box or anything, just the books. I think I paid like $3 for it.
Yeah, right. It's amazing with that stuff that it was that cheap back then, and it didn't really get expensive until eBay. It really wasn't available. And eBay came around in the collector's market and stuff, but then the second edition books went out of print, and then we were in third edition in the mid 2000s, and then I think that's when Wizards reprint the original books or whatever, but they're in the premium kind of foil covers and stuff. And they were priced really high, and I think that's when everything started to go up and get that collector value, because people realized, this stuff doesn't exist anymore. It's never going to be around again. So but we all got a pretty diverse background. We've all been playing different games here for a long time. Obviously today we want to talk about Castles and Crusades, right? So I guess at first, I just want to talk about what our experience with that is and how we got involved, and in CNC. And I know I kind of mentioned, I was introduced, by Jason mentioned it being a good system. And I'll be honest, I was kind of skeptical at first with the whole siege engine thing and all of that. And then, but then playing it with George, we had, we had a blast. And so we, go back and so that's, I think it was the only time we played it is going back down to MEPA a couple times a year, playing it until finally, I don't know, has it been 6-8 months now that we've been using it in our game?
I think that's right. Last stream we determined we've been playing for
like a year and a half or
year?
something, right?
In fact, I think it
months.
was 1 year, 2 months, and 2 weeks. I think so.
Okay.
That's what we said. And I think we switched over around the 4th month. I think that's when we left Basic Fantasy.
Okay. All right.
No,
it had to be earlier than that.
It was after
December.
MEPA. We were driving home from MEPA.
Oh,
was it Page?
I think it was Page.
It was Page. That's right. That's because we picked up Reforged. That's right.
Yep.
Because we talked to Steven and the rest of the trolls at Page.
Yep. And we had a great time
hung out with them a lot. And
we got to hang out with them a lot because their shipment of books didn't show up for day one, so they had nothing to do for the entire first day.
You don't have to tell anybody that part. Just assume that we're cool and we know the trolls.
We were cool and got to hang out with them. Yeah,
that's what it was. So we were driving home from Page, and we were discussing. In fact, because we had started talking about it before Page, because we had signed up to play Hyperborea. Right. And the author of Hyperborea had to cancel Page. Otherwise, we might have gone Hyperborea, because I'm a huge fan of Hyperborea. I think I always go to the Ranger. If the Ranger's good in the system, I'm like, hey, this is a great system. So Hyperborea, really liked the Hyperborea Ranger. But we ended up not playing with him. We played with Steven. I played with all the trolls. And so when we didn't get to play Hyperborea, we were like, and then we ended up hanging out with all the trolls, and we were like, let's just do C&C. But after we decided to do C&C, we were really just on the fence of which version are we going to play, Reforged or OGL. So that was our big decision point there.
Yeah, we're doing Reforged, right?
Yes,
we're doing Reforged. Yeah, and for the same reason, I had to make this decision at another point when all we had was basic first edition and like a couple second edition books and things, and then we had a bunch of new players that were going to play, and we decided to go with third edition at the time because the books were readily available. It was what was there, and whatnot. And so we decided to switch to third. And that was kind of like the same reason, with Reforged, that it was like, well, there's all these other, versions, all these other things. They're going to change the names of the spells and the monsters and stuff. And we wanted all the, we wanted everything to be uniform. And so we switched. And that's kind of how that happened there. George, you've been around C&C for a long time now, right? You've been involved directly with Troll Lord for a while, right?
That ended up happening through the pandemic. Right before the pandemic actually hit, Chuck was starting up Endless Worlds, and we started to get it together. We got T-shirts and everything, and that was in, I guess, December. And then by, March, the beginning of March, they were like, hey, we may not have GaryCon this year. And everything fell apart at that point. And it took a while to get it back up and running because, even gaming at that point, after the pandemic, I think 2022 was when the cons started to come back then.
Yeah.
And then working with Chuck, just with different things, trying to get them up and running, which takes a while.
Sure. Yeah, no, and those are great guys too. Those are great guys to work with. And I know Jason mentioned, we've gamed with Steven and Chuck and Davis and even Jason Vey. And they're all absolutely fantastic.
Sure are. Yeah.
You know, just to talk to and stuff, even not just from a gaming standpoint. I mean, they're wonderful people. And Ken, this is your first foray into CNC?
Yeah,
is my game. Right.
yeah. I played a bunch of 3.5. I played a fair amount of Pathfinder first, which is basically 3.5.5, and then some second edition. I think I started on second edition, and so it's not completely foreign. But this is the first time I've played Castles and Crusades as the system. Yeah.
Yeah. And Decado, I know that on Discord people know you as CK Stan, which I'm just going to assume that stands for Castle Keeper, unless I'm completely.
Yep. Correct.
Charles King, maybe. I don't know.
Charles King.
So we were talking when we met up like a week or so ago, but you were wrapping up a CNC campaign or no? Am I thinking of something else? No, you're still going.
No,
strong?
Mine's still going. It probably won't wrap up so originally we had planned, we were kind of talking about like running it like to the max levels, and I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm thinking about capping it at around level 15th level, which is probably another 6 years of real play. So
yeah.
Jeez.
And you play every 2 weeks or thereabouts. Is
pretty
that right?
much, yeah. Pretty much, yeah. Twice a month. So I'm actually playing Saturday. Every game I'm running Saturday.
What level are they now?
7th and 8th. I have 5 regular players, and two of them are 8th level, and then the rest are 7th.
Yeah.
Do they have backup characters?
Some of them do, because sometimes I'll do like an alternate, not timeline, but like they'll do a different adventure that doesn't involve their regular characters. Not all of them do, though. Not all of them do that. We have they affectionately call the second group the B team. So it's a
I was going to ask.
There you go, Roger. We won't call them alts anymore. They're going to.
I was going to. That was the question.
B team.
We've been calling them the alts. Yeah. The mains.
Roger doesn't like that.
They got mains and alts, and the way I'm running the game, I want them to just be all characters, and not feel like these are the main guys. These are alts.
We talked about that last time.
Yeah, we did. No, we did.
No, but I'm happy to talk about it some more.
But no, I'm sure we will. So level 15. That seems that's a lot higher than I want to cap people at. I think.
Well, I actually would probably go a little bit lower than that, but I also want, like, one of my players is playing the wizard, so I want him to get access to his
teleport,
wizard spells. Yeah. So I want him to get that experience. We played our previous game where I was running 5th edition, and then I just was so burnt out I needed a different system.
Oh, man, yeah.
Castles Crusades won that. That decision making, but we played up until like 18th level, and part of it was fun, but it was super frustrating. And as a game master, it was super frustrating to run.
Yep.
I had fun with the stories that we were developing that would come from our adventures, but like prepping all that stuff and trying to challenge them at that level was very, very difficult.
So it wasn't so much. What did you find frustrating about it? Was it preparing because of the high level, or because of the system, or
system?
What? Okay.
System. One, I think
both, right?
And this kind of goes both, yeah. So this is why my thought kind of goes with why I picked 15th level is I'm not really convinced that any D&D style game does high level play very well. I don't think it's designed for it.
Right.
Most games never get there.
Agree. Yeah.
5th edition never did. Like, I even saw a post from Mike Merles where he said they didn't even really play test high levels. They just didn't have the time because they were being told they had to push the game out. And I just think it kind of falls down. And there's a reason why if you take like Hyperborea or Old School Essentials or old,
Yeah.
The older editions of the game, they kind of capped out like in that 12 to 14
10
mark. And
10,
at
12,
ninth level,
14,
you get
yeah.
strongholds, so
Yep.
there's a reason for that because you're going to be retiring. So,
Yeah.
and then it just, but I want to give Castles Crusades a chance because it's been great for us. I really like it. It's not perfect, but nothing is. So
Sure.
it's been really good for our group though, like really good.
Yeah.
And for me
I think
GM.
I think the XP, that XP needed to get to the next level, it starts to get huge, once you start to get to those higher levels. And I think that's a lot of it, that Gary, I think, saw was, we want to slow everything down because we don't want players to get there too quickly and then stay there. But yeah, so I
that's
can
actually one of the things that, obviously was very different than 5th edition, where in 5th edition you could kick 2 rats across the street and gain a level. It's much slower in Castles Crusades or any of these other OSR games, and I didn't really think of that going into it, but it's become something that like the whole group really likes. They like it a lot better than the rapid leveling that like 5th edition had.
Sure,
absolutely.
I don't.
Hey, Mike.
Trying to think of how to formulate this without sounding like a jackass. I don't want to level overnight. That was one thing about 5th edition. I agree. You level way too fast. Like you said, kick 2 rats. Hey, you're 2nd level. I don't know how to cast my spells yet.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing.
But my issue with doubling the experience every level, and I talked about this on the last stream. In C&C, once you hit 6th level, it's double, and it's a lot. And then 7th level is double. It took me 6 months to get to level 6. It's taken me 6 more months to get to level 8. And there gets to and Roger alleviates this because he does a 1-for-1 gold for experience point. So if you're making money, you can still make some experience points. But if the gap between levels is too high for me, I start getting bored. And it's not that I want to be level 20 overnight, but like I'm not seeing character progression. My dude's been out wandering the wasteland for 14 months real time. And I'm like, okay, I have another 250,000 experience points to go before I can.
A lot of rats.
Yeah, Ken, you beat me by 2 seconds on that. I was going to say that.
And but this problem kind of it segues into another one. In a video game, you start off in level 1 land. World of Warcraft is the ultimate expression of that. You're killing pigs at first level until you hit 3rd level, and then you're going to go kill some kobolds, and then you're going to go kill orcs. And it's like, this is level 1 land, this is level 5 land, this is level 10 land. If you do that in Dungeons and Dragons, it doesn't make any sense. Why are the orcs concentrated here? Why is this dragon hanging out way over here and he's not doing anything? And so the problem, as I see it with Dungeons and Dragons and the slowed leveling and all that, like in our campaign, there's we've got hexes. We started off 1 hex and then we cleared the surrounding hexes, and then those surround. It's like you do concentric circles. We're clearing this out and we're spreading out.
Yeah.
At what point does it become like orcs again? Okay, hi orcs. We're gonna go this way. You guys just go away, and we won't kill all of you in the blink of an eye. And it's like, oh, here's a dragon. Well, what stopped that dragon from killing all these orcs 3 months ago and moving into the hex right next to our village? I don't know. Anyway, man, I really went off on a tangent there. I have no problem. I have no problem stretching out the leveling, but I've yet to play a system where I didn't feel like it was dragged out on purpose. Roger will tell you flat out he doesn't like to DM high level guys. That's why he wants us to retire at 8th level or so. But just like you said, Ducato, you know, I want to see the guy playing the wizard get to cast teleport, because that's super cool. You know, fireball and lightning, you know, the level 3 spells are the big steps that wizards want to do. I can finally cast fireball. For a cleric, it's being able to cure poison or cure disease. That's a 4th level spell. That's a big deal. For my cleric, he wants to hit level 13 so he can cast resurrection. Backstory on that. But you know, it is going to take, this is something that Roger and I talked about. It will take us another 3.5 years of playing before I ever hit level 13. That's if I survive long enough to do it. So it's like, you know, it's something my character wants to do, but it's never going to happen. Anyway,
I guess the way I try to, as a guy that runs the game, I try to combat that a little bit. I mean, I'm not giving them extra abilities or anything like that, but my guys are pretty good about, I guess, getting invested in what's going on. So it's like giving them like things that they accomplish, you know, and like we had a whole, you know, large war band of bugbears early on, and they defeated that and retook a keep for their Thane, and you know, and it just moved on from there. But the thing I like about the slow leveling is, as a game master, I like it for the fact that like I have a fair amount of different adventure ideas that I want to do, and the chances of them out leveling those ideas are slimmer than like when I was running 5th edition, where like we could still do the idea, but then I'm going to have to modify the hell of it because you're 5 levels higher than I thought you were going to be when we got to that point, which I can do, but it's nice when right. So it's like I kind of like, but I do see your point, like especially if you're looking for that sort of advancement. I don't think like any of these older games are good in that regard, because they all kind of work the same. You know, like it's all very slow leveling, and I mean, with the exception of like more modern versions like Shadow Dark and stuff, you can level, depending on how you do it, you can level there fairly quickly because they do experience points differently than they do in like CNC or OSC or any of those.
Yeah, a couple of us have mentioned Shadowrun as being in some of the earlier games we played. I started playing Shadowrun in 2nd edition, which was really 1.5. And I always liked the way Shadowrun leveled. You get karma, and you could spend karma on raising your firearm skill, or you could learn a new language or whatever. So you were never there was never a level. It was, you know, what's your total karma, but it really didn't matter. You know, if you roll, you know, you're rolling to shoot. Okay, so you get to roll 3d6 instead of 2d6. But that's really not that big of a deal. So you were able to advance your character, and over time you could be really powerful, but really more than powerful, you were accomplished. You know, there was a huge blanket of things that you could do. And so I really like that kind of level progression. But you know, I will always play Dungeons and Dragons, so you know, I'm always going to have a level 1.
You know, I think
I like Dragonbane is like that, where there's no levels. It's all it's like Call of Cthulhu. Just you use a D20 and you have skills, and every session, like you answer. Free League does this. If you've ever played any of their games, like all their games pretty much have questions at the end of the session, and you answer those, and you get a chance. If you answered yes, you get a chance to. Awesome. I don't have those versions, but one of my favorite games ever is Dragonbane. And it just like you just roll to see if you increase. It's not guaranteed you're going to, but like you'll eventually boost things up. And you can see a little bit of progression every session. You know, it's not a lot, but it's a little, and it works because like if I go from having to like a 14 skill to a 15 skill, well, great. Now I can roll a 15 and under and succeed at what I'm doing, you know? So.
And one of the things you just hit on is there's no guarantee. You know, you roll the die, and if you roll the right number, then you gain a point in that, and it's like 3 different skills. So you're not getting like 30. You know, all your skills are not going to rise at one time.
Yeah, no. You may earn a couple free rolls during the game if you roll a dragon or a demon, but other than that, you're not getting a bunch. You know. Yeah,
so I really like that system.
Pretty decent. I do too. It's one of my favorites, actually. it's not D&D, but it's a really good fantasy game, and you can do. I think you could do like low fantasy with it. You can do high fantasy with it.
Yeah.
Wait, which one's that?
It's not money driven,
Dragon
which is
Maid?
great.
Dragonbait. Yeah.
It's not money driven, which is so you don't have players running around with bucket loads of cash. You can keep them that low, like low fantasy. You're at the bar scraping up your last coppers for a drink, and
Yeah.
you got to go adventure because you need money. So
Yeah.
Sure.
it's really good. One of my
I
favorites.
want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm curious about George and Joe's opinion on the leveling progression in C&C versus other games. How do you guys feel about that?
I'll let George go first. So he's has way more experience.
Joe has to consult his cat.
Yeah.
It goes back to similarities with AD&D and second edition, and really, I think it comes down to how the GM is running the game. Like Stan mentioned with, clearing out the bugbear hold, right? And like reclaiming it as yours. One of the first AD&D games I ran, the party bought the ruins of a town, which, the guy just basically took the money and said, here's a deed, and wrote it up and said, go out there. And it was rubble. And the party decided that was theirs, and they started doing this stuff. And that's how they advanced up in levels, defending their rubble town and everything and building it up. I think that type of play, and if the DM is finding what the players want, advances the game with experience and everything, and it doesn't get bored. And I think one of the nice ways that Jason said this was feeling accomplished, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're feeling accomplished, the levels don't seem as bad, and you can advance up. I also like the idea, old school Beck Me aspect, right? The beginners or basic, you're going into the dungeons. Expert, you're going out into the wilderness. And, like the time you're a master, you're more or less, you're not adventuring as much. The focus is on more politics and things like that. And I think if you're introducing those concepts and not always awarding based upon monster kills and gold equals XP, I think you're getting a lot more dynamic with your game. So like answering the question of comparing leveling with C&C, I think it goes back to the older games like AD&D. I think the tables are very close. I think the cleric table messed up a lot somewhere in transition because clerics don't really have an easy progression, but it's fairly close, a lot of the classes. So I think it does resonate back to the old stuff. And I also like to also preface that, C&C is not AD&D or AD&D second edition. It really is its own standalone system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And I had, the question written down of what is C&C, and I had, kind of on that same topic, George, like, I kind of see C&C as a mesh between like 3.5 and first edition, because it uses a lot of the D20 system that was introduced in, third edition, where everything uses the D20, D20, add a bunch of modifiers, roll high against a target number, basically. But everything in the book is based on, their first edition counterparts, or first or second edition, I guess. I'm more familiar with first, but so I go that route. But I mean, that's what C&C looks like and feels like to me. And I don't know if you feel the same or if you've got any thoughts on that.
I think there's a lot of similarities. I mean, you look at the Paladin and it looks like a copy over from AD&D.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Then you look at the Ranger and you're looking at something that you're like, man, if only AD&D had this. I remember playing second edition and like their ability to hide at first level is like 15% or something like that. Maybe you modify that by dex or whatever, but I was like 15% to start, and you're a ranger in the woods.
Don't bother.
Yeah, don't.
Another try.
I want to caveat what George just said about the CNC Paladin being so similar to first edition Paladin.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely believe that the first edition Paladin was the right Paladin, and I think that's why CNC is so similar to it. Mm-hmm. Like you just said, the Ranger's cool, but not great. It's got some problems. But man, the first edition Paladin, I love the first edition Paladin. I think it's excellent. So anyway, that's all I had.
Yeah. So any other thoughts from anybody as far as what, defining CNC, like where it fits or what it is?
Yeah, I kind of define it the same way. Like people have asked me, like, "Oh, what's it like?" And I'm like, to me, it's basically like I'm playing AD&D with a better rule set.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's how it feels like.
Yep.
And it's cleaner. It definitely is cleaner. I have a lot of respect for AD&D in second edition, but I can just pick this up and run with it, and on the fly come up with how I'm going to adjudicate something and not look back at the book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that too is because of the siege engine, and it makes things really, really easy. And just for those that don't know, I know you guys are all familiar with it, but the siege engine basically is the whole core of the game, and it's a base of 12 or 18 plus the difficulty level, which is the level or number of hit dice of the monster. So if a monster is going to shoot something at you and it's a beam, and so you can dodge out of the way, it's going to be, if it's prime or not prime for you, it's going to be 12 plus, say the level of monster is 6. So then it's either going to be an 18 or a 24. That you need to roll on the die, and you would add like your dex bonus and add your level to it, and that's pretty much that. And that's pretty much how the siege engine works. And then prime and not prime is just based on what you get. One based on your class, and then you get a second one if you're human. No, you get two, right? You get one based on your class, and then you get one that's a choice, and then you get a third one.
Right.
That's if you're human. Joe dropped. I want to get him back in there. Yeah.
There he is.
Hi, Joe.
Hi. Sorry, my internet is doing weird things.
But yeah, that's the basis of the siege engine, and it makes it really, really easy to run the game, because when you're using a monster or something, all you need to do is you just need to know how many hit dice the monster is, or level. CNC says level now, but so if something's 10 hit die monster, then that all of its attacks, in order to dodge, it's going to be 22 or 28 to dodge, and that's it. It's really, really simple, to come up with that stuff. I think it makes it really easy instead of having to develop full stats on everything.
Yeah.
What's really interesting,
it makes it easy to run, because like I had a session not too long ago, and after they were fighting, I don't remember what it was now, but after the session, my son was talking to me about it, and he plays and he's the ranger in our game, and I got talking about him, like the stats. He has something about the stats or something. I'm like, I don't know, dude. I just made him up as we were playing because I needed them. He's like, what? I'm like, dude, all I needed was a couple things. Like I had an AC in my head, and the hit dice it was, and the damage that they did, and that's all I really needed. And
that was my big issue with 5th edition at the end of high levels. Like I ran a campaign from 1 to 14 or 15, something like that, over 2 years, I think. And by the end of it, just trying to remember what each monster could do, and having this, paragraph of just nonsense where I'm only going to use a third of it, but I don't know which third, and then all the numbers are slightly different. So yeah, it is real nice to just have a single number. You're going, yep, this is the main number.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the nice thing about it too is it's super hackable. Like you can put, I've stolen a bunch of stuff from Hyperborea and put it in the game, and it doesn't upset and change, fundamentally, like in 5th edition, you couldn't do that. Like there's some things you could do, but like I hated the resting mechanics. But if you take those out, you screw over like several of the classes.
Yeah.
So it's like you got to deal with. It's just not as hackable. Like so the old,
but it makes the game playable.
Yeah, it's but they're so much easier to like
Yeah.
pull stuff in or toss stuff out that you don't like. It's way easier on the Game Master to run.
Sure. Absolutely it is. Yeah, I think the Siege engine, and I was iffy on the Siege engine at first when I first had heard about it, because I'm not big on like fixed difficulties and things like that. So when somebody says, "Oh, it's a 12 or an 18 or whatever," like the first thing I was thinking of is that it's a fixed, those are fixed difficulties or whatever. And then you find out like, oh, okay, you add the level of the thing, so it actually raises up.
Challenge level.
And then you're adding your level to the roll. So it's really the difficulties based on the difference of the level. And maybe that's just how it works in my head, because I'm thinking about the math being behind the GM screen. But basically, if you're evenly matched with the opponent, there's no bonus, right? It's just based on your actual physical attribute or mental attribute, depending on what it is. And so, whereas if you're 3 levels higher, then you've got a +3 bonus basically on the roll, or vice versa. And like I said, maybe that's just me because I'm thinking about the math all the time and how the game works.
I think a lot of people feel that way about CNC with, like if it's your level, it's, you're back to the 12 and 18, it washes out really.
Yeah.
And, I think the part is, you have to remember you're playing in a group too. And the idea of the group is to back each other up too.
Mm-hmm.
As you gain levels, the group is still important. 5e, 3.5, especially, you could solo stuff by yourself, kind of.
Right.
You could work your way around it. This goes back to, I think, some of the roots of AD&D of, you got to work together to get things done.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
right.
If I had you guys go across the rooftop and, like I'm not prime in Dex, well, you got a party there to help you get across the roof. This becomes like one of those team building exercises that you hate at work. You got to work with them to get it done. I think that's one of the good things about CNC and things that you have to remember, and to use magic appropriately. Because and to get magic items that are going to help you overcome these obstacles. But it does seem a little binary that things may be very easy or very complicated at times, or very difficult to pass at times. How do you get the right level of dragon to fight against in CNC? That's a huge
that's discussion. The thing, though. That's the thing. And my answer to that is you don't. You just, the dragon is the dragon. And if the party decides, hey, we want to try and fight that thing, then they're going to go try and fight that thing. I mean, that's how I roll. I mean, I'm completely against the 5th edition aspect of, hey, here's this dragon that has to be, this CR because the party is this level. And so this dragon that they come across has to be this. Like, no, in my game, like you might walk into a hall with, 26 fire giants and, a high level caster, and the party, has got to make a decision and say, hey, we want to do this, or, take all my 3D printed stuff and just say nope and walk out, and say, no, we're not going to do this encounter. Thanks for spending an hour to set it all up. But I'm not bitter. But that's how I feel about that, George. Is like,
hey, for the record, you're going to set it up again. It's coming.
I know.
You say that, Roger.
I do, yeah.
But I think it's only a half truth.
Sure.
There have been very few situations where we have gone in, excuse me, to fight something, and you've like locked the door behind us. That's only happened a couple of times.
Sure.
The dragon is a great example. We found a teleporter. We jumped out way in the middle of nowhere, and there was some kind of swamp dragon, whatever he was. It was with lizardmen. So we saw the lizardmen and we're like, kill them. So we start beating on the lizardmen, and the fight's going really well. And then one of them jumps in the water, and the next round a dragon pops up, and we're all like, okay. And so, we were all, like half poised to leave, half poised not to. And then he breathed on the party. Yeah, unfortunately, he didn't get most of the players, but he wiped out like half of our mercenaries. And we were all like, run. And the dragon didn't pursue us. He said, if you ever come back, I'll kill all of you. And we were like, see ya. So we ran away. Of course, we came back 3 levels later and we stomped him. But you definitely do have encounters that are this level, and it makes no difference whether we are at this level or this level.
Yeah.
But it's not very often where we walk into something and there's not a way out, whether it's through talking or handing over all of our gold to the Zorn or running, whatever. So yeah. Anyway, I have no idea what the point of that was.
No, and I'm not saying that that's how it should be or whatever. Like, oh, there should always be this dragon there, and he's just gonna, I mean, obviously there should be other means, but I mean, what I mean is that there's going to be things that you guys can't fight, or things that the party can't. That's way over level. But like, I mean, like there's that red dragon out in the desert, right? Like that you guys saw right from miles away.
Yeah.
You guys aren't a threat to him.
Right.
At all, because he's like triple your level, right? Like, so spoilers, but it's, yeah, I mean, there's like, no, like, why would he want to fly over and like eat you guys? There's like, you're like 6 people wandering around in the desert, like he's like, don't mess with me. I'm, you know what I mean? Like, don't come near my hill, type of thing,
That's also a good way of like foreshadowing stuff too. Like, there's this problem and you're like, well, we're not ready for this problem. So as the players, but as the game master, you're like, I do the same thing. Like, I'll throw stuff out there and I try to be like descriptive enough or give them enough information where they can be like, okay, that's something we could be interested in, but we have no business being interested in it right now. And then the dragon does whatever the dragon wants to do. So that may be torching the village, or it may just be hanging out in its lair because it's got, trees to live. So it's not in a rush to do anything.
When you, and I'm asking all 3 of the DMs that I've played with, or Ducato and in fact, Ken, I know you DM also. When you put a high level creature like that, like let's say Roger's Red Dragon, and he just said he's triple the level of all of us. My cleric is level 8, so let's assume that this dragon is an elder worm. He's 20-ish. Yeah. Earlier we talked about level progression. There is no point in this campaign that our characters will ever be the level where they can challenge this red dragon, no matter what we do, no matter what we obtain. So having a creature of that level in the campaign, is he more set dressing? Is that the purpose of this dragon? He's an illustration up in the corner. He's an illumination.
So your character level, I'll give you my philosophy. Your character level is there to help you play the combat game, but there's a meta game happening that you're playing through, like conversation with the dragon or the dragon's enemies or the dragon's cult, and none of that has anything to do with your character level, except maybe you might be Richard the second time you meet him, and that could be interesting to him. But yeah, I don't think the point of that kind of enemy is to like one day be able to stab him enough that he falls down. It's more like, hey, this is a puzzle. This is a social puzzle. It's a piece of a larger puzzle, and you just have to figure out how you want to work with it, and how does it fit into your story. That's my take.
But if you have a creature like that, I mean, it's not like he's a lawful good gold dragon up on the hill who isn't going to actively interfere with you or harm you or torch the village. You know, the gold dragon's up there meditating on the harmony of the rock. The red dragon, because avarice is the description of a red dragon, always wants more. He is going to be a problem for you at some point, or your third character down the line. But
I think that's true. However, I think that the dragon's avarice might not reach out to your part of the world for 1,000 years.
Right.
Like it may never be a concern to you, right? And at that point, you know, depending on which system you're playing, if it's Castles and Crusades, I'm not sure what happens at higher levels. But if it was 5th edition, obviously at that point you fought gods or whatever happens at high level.
Yeah.
D&D, right? But yeah, there's plenty of reasons why a red dragon is not going to come mess with you and your friends, you know, 1,000 miles away for no reason, right? You were a bunch of poor swamp people trying to build a small town. He's got better things to do. He's got no reason to be over there unless you piss him off.
And the specific one that's there is, I mean, he's, you know, kind of for everybody to know, he sort of has a toll route kind of going on.
The kobolds with their hand out saying, "Give us gold."
Yeah, basically. And you know, so I mean, that's kind of his like income. That's how he gets, you know, richer and richer or whatever. But also there's, at least in my world, right? Like he's not the only high level thing that's out there, right? Like like you guys know that there's a beholder out there that has some motives. There's you know, there's a couple humans. Question mark. Yeah, I mean, there's some questionable things out there, right? So I mean, but you guys know, right, that the guy you guys know that there's a good dragon out there, I believe. So like, I mean, I don't want to, like, I'm not saying that I planned it this way, but like, you know, if you really wanted to, you know, pit one against the other, I'm sure that there's a way that you could, you know, or whatever. You know, so that battle doesn't have to be fought, you know, directly with you guys, you know. But I mean, if you really wanted to go at the red dragon with, you know, a bunch of giants and your own dragon and an army, I mean, you know, I think that would be an epic night, you know. I mean, we might need Ducato to paint an army for us and a couple of dragons.
Yeah, let's do it.
You need six guys in the back, all rolling dice, you know, just to keep up with the combat.
Yeah, right. No, but that's like my, you know, like, so yeah, I understand your point of like, yeah, the party of 5 or 6 people, you know, even at level 15, aren't just going to march up to this dragon and try and kill it. I mean, especially if the dragons actually run properly, you know, and like not, you know, I mean, you know, the dragon's on the ground, you know, in front of you, like, you know, it's in the air, you know, and it's, you know, breathing down fire and everything else, you know, so there's a whole thing. But, you know, but yeah, if you go at it with like an entire army, I think that's the more, you know, realistic way to take down a dragon.
Well, and I think, you know, sorry. I think that's the way, like the way you described it is a way a lot of us played it. Like you got to go get the giants to help. You got to go get, you know, you got to go get these 5 armies, get them all to come together.
That sounds familiar, George. Is that from something?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just ripping off of anything I can. We'll get one guy with an arrow. That's magical.
That's all you need.
One guy with an arrow. That's funny that you mentioned that, one guy with an arrow, because I've made the argument before that Smaug had 1 hit point.
Oh, okay. That could be.
He just had armor of invulnerability.
And it was just because realistically, right, one guy with an arrow, right, like he shot him in the right spot. He rolled a natural 20 and just hit him.
I think part of this though is like when you get to higher levels, and I think Ken had mentioned part of this is you're getting more role playing in as well. Like you need to get these groups together. You got to complete quests for other groups. You know, what are you going to do for the giants to get the giants to help you fight the red dragon? You know, and I think that's where it becomes more and more dynamic. It's not necessarily you yourself going into a dungeon and beating things up. I mean, I'm all for that. My favorite adventures are the G series. Especially the frost giants and the fire giants, and just doing wicked things with them, pick up a player and throw them down, stomp at them, like now all of a sudden we have a dynamic game. But when you get up higher level than that, you get into fighting some demons and things, but to go take on a dragon, you're pulling out all the shots right there.
Yeah.
And, or you need to be coming in heavily loaded with magic and everything else and a much higher level. But, even getting catapults, the dwarves and their catapults and, whatever army you can muster would be an awesome moment. And that doesn't need to be played out nitty gritty. Like, it can be in the background. You have the classic Avengers theme where you have the heroes fighting and then you have the whole backdrop of the war going on,
Yeah.
And running it that way. And I think we've moved on from a lot of what Gary and Arneson may have taught us about, different things. I really think we've come a long way with gaming since the early days.
Adventure designs come a long way. I mean, there's some great, obviously, classic adventures, and like the Temple of Elemental Evil is probably my favorite that ever came out in that era. But like, I think adventure design and stuff has come a long way since then, and the thing with the dragon, like I have a dragon in my game that showed up for a B team session, and they found its lair, and the druid flew down into it as an owl, and they didn't know a dragon was there. That's not true. They had a rumor that a dragon had overtaken this keep a long time ago, but they didn't know what happened to it. And then he found its lair, and they saw there's a couple minions. So it's way too much for them. They did the smart thing and ran and hid. Like if they had tried to fight it, they would have died. And they realized that. So, but the thing you can do with something like that as a game master, if they're at that level, is you don't have to pit the dragon against them, because the dragon probably view them as very insignificant, especially a red, because they're so arrogant. Like those people that you're insignificant, like you're beneath my time and effort. But I have this whole host of minions that you can work your way through in your levels until you get a little bit closer to the prize, and then you come in and, like has been stated before, and you still got to go and pool these other resources and try to like get the giants to come in, or the 5 armies, and do all that. You could turn a whole campaign around at a low level, introducing a dragon way beyond their measure, and not really have to worry about that, especially with a red. Like some dragon, I mean, if it was a whites are very animalistic, and they would probably just come in and fucking freeze the entire place and be done with it, but need everybody. But the reds are way more sophisticated and arrogant.
Yeah. No, well, that's pretty well put. I mean, that's kind of how I see, most dragons or whatever, is if it's, if they're so much higher level than you or whatever, like you're just insignificant. It doesn't matter. Why go out and kill these 6 guys or whatever.
The other thing I do, when I do that, I'll throw things out there that, like I said earlier, that they know, like they're not prepared to deal with, and I do that sometimes as just a not so subtle reminder to them that they're not the biggest fish in the sea. And that there's things, because we all do it, when we're players and stuff, you start to develop abilities and powers, and you're steamrolling over certain things and stuff, and every once in a while it's a good thing to remind them that there are bigger and badder things out there than you guys. So
I agree.
That works pretty good. Like I've very rarely had players, because they don't want to lose their characters, because they've learned through playing C&C. It's not 5th edition, so I mean I've had several characters killed in this campaign, and So they're not as quick to just run into battle and be like, yay, you know. They're like, no, that's a bad idea. Like, we should not go fight that right now.
Man, that is a lesson that is, if you started playing 5th edition, that is a lesson that is extremely hard to learn. We went through serious growing pains early on in Roger's campaign, and we kind of joke about it now. But I was the only player that had any serious experience outside of 5th edition, and so I was the tactician. Like when the fight would start, I would stand up so I can see the entire board. Somebody would move their miniature, and I'm like, don't do that. Don't put him there. And I did that for months. And there came a point where we were in a big battle, and somebody went to move their piece, and they looked at me, and I said, I'm done, man. We're 4th level. If you haven't learned your lesson by now, you're not going to, and I'm not here to play 5 characters. I'm here to play mine, so I'm going to focus on mine. You focus on yours. 3 more dead characters. You'll get it eventually. And now, finally, the group seems to have finally picked it up that running ahead of the fighter when you're a squishy means you get squished. And that, boy, that was a long time.
That was a big change from 5th edition, you know, because you were basically, I call it Fantasy Avengers. So you're running around, you're a superhero.
Yeah.
To Castles Crusades or any OSR game, you're not a superhero, and that's something they learned. I mean, we had character deaths, and we had, I think, 1 or 2 in the 5th edition game that I ran. We had more in a different one, but it was kind of geared that way. But this one, I mean, not a lot, because I don't want a lot of character deaths, but it happens, and I don't pull any punches when it does. They die, and sometimes they get brought back, and sometimes they don't, because it just, the circumstances aren't so they can. They really had to learn that, and it took a little bit. But they got it. I mean, most of them had played older games, but they hadn't played them in a long time. Mm-hmm. My son was the only one that had never played anything prior to 5th edition. You know, he grew up on 5th edition, so.
Yeah, wow. You mentioned something that I wanted to bring up. You mentioned Castles and Crusades being OSR. Now, personally, my view on OSR, I don't really like the term. I use it, but I think the term is like, it used to mean something, and now it's like, you know, everything is OSR now. It says, you know, and so I think the term is kind of, the term and the definition has kind of grown to a point where it encompasses, you know, everything. So I don't know, like, I understand when people say CNC is OSR, like, you know, I can get where they're coming from. But I kind of disagree with that, because to me, it has, you know, like when I said earlier, it's basically, you know, the D20 system. Like, to me, the D20 system is not OSR, you know, and I don't know, like, to me, it's never going to be. Like, to some people I know, you know, as soon as 3rd edition passes the 25th anniversary or whatever, you know, now all of a sudden it's OSR, right? It counts as an antique or whatever. But, and I mean, I don't see it that way. I think OSR means, you know, adjacent to, you know, emulating the original rules of D&D, you know, the older editions. You know, and CNC, I mean, as much as it kind of has that same vibe and feel to it, I don't really consider it OSR because it has that, you know, that D20 system feel to it. I don't know what your, you know, thoughts are on that, or, you know, anybody's, you know, for that matter.
I guess the best, I lump it in there. You know, I refer to it as a OSR style game, because it does have the D20 mechanic. I mean, there's no doubt that it was, you know, built out of 3rd edition, and then they, you know, with the Siege edition, it became its own thing. But there's definitely those roots to 3rd edition there, without a doubt. But I think because of the tone of it, where it feels like it's AD&D, that's why, and the time frame that it came out, I kind of lump it in there. But it's probably more like OSR adjacent, I guess.
Yeah, right.
I think that's a good way of saying it. Yeah.
Yeah, but then everything is OSR adjacent then, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
there's not like a great definition out there what exactly OSR is. But,
yeah, I think
we
there
talked
used
about
to
this a
be.
little bit in person, like a few weeks ago, I think.
Mhm.
But in my mind, if you can take the resources of another OSR game and use it in your game, or a dungeon from AD&D Second Edition and use it in your game, the easier it is to do that, the closer you are to OSR. And the whole point of OSR is to have an ecosystem of, character options and magic and cool tables to roll on and monsters and stuff. So the closer you can get to using those resources across games, the closer you are to the OSR, whatever that
That's
is.
interesting. That's an interesting thought to like try and graph out where all of these things fall, how adjacent they are, right, to OSR. I kind of like that thought of, hey, this has got all of these points, so this is the closest to OSR. So the 0 point would probably be, Beckme or Moldvay Basic or one of those, or OD&D or whatever it is, right? That would be the 0 point.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you drift, away, so CNC would be further away than Osric or whatever. It's something like that. That's more of a direct clone or something.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I would
know
say
From an
Hyperborea.
interview that Steven did, somewhere online, somebody asked him about that, and he said he didn't consider it OS. He never marketed it that way. He wanted it to be its own thing. So, I mean, that's coming from the guy that owns
From
it.
the
So.
guy that made it. So yeah, that's definitely something. George, you were going to say something?
I would say like Hyperborea is very OSR adjacent.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
The old Thalco tables, which I don't really care for anymore. It's fine, can do it, but it's not native anymore. Even the ability scores with the feats of strength, the test of strength, things like that, it really comes so close to OSR.
It is, yeah.
The term has been mangled so bad, and it always has been.
It's a marketing term more than anything else now.
Yeah.
Right. No, I agree. It's definitely a marketing thing, and it's but everybody, everything's like OSR now. It's like OSR, and I understand and can appreciate like what you say as far as the compatibility with it. The closer you get, the more OSR you are. But yeah, that's kind of interesting because you look at other systems like like Morkborg or that, and those are D20 roll high, and
nowhere near OSR.
But well, I don't know. I mean, they're D20 roll high. They kind of have like that kind of grimdark feel to them. I mean,
but I never felt that Dungeons and Dragons was grimdark. Dungeons and Dragons was heroic fantasy.
Sure.
Sure. You were meant to succeed. It would be difficult at times, but you were to play the good guy, despite the assassin's class being in first edition. You were playing a hero. It was heroic fantasy.
Sure.
The entire Mork universe is grimdark, and this is something that you and I have talked about. It's why I don't like it really anymore.
Sure.
It was like, okay, I'm gonna save the world, and no matter what I do, this world is dissolving into chaos and death and destruction, and there is no light. There's only all-consuming dark.
Yep.
Yeah.
and that's why I don't like it. So I don't care that the Morkborg system. And by the way, I'm not trying to crap on Morkborg. It is very popular, and I think it's an excellent system because look at how many offshoots there are that can all fall under that umbrella. Anytime you get a system like that, you're aces to me. I just don't care for the setting. But as far as it being OSR adjacent, I don't care if you roll a D20 or D million. It's not OSR. It's its own. It's its own bag.
Right.
Have you guys ever seen those graphs that are like it's some kind of a shape, like a pentagon or something, and one side is like speed, and another side is combat, and another side is blocking ability or whatever. And there's little dots that are pulled out to the corners.
They plot the points, and it makes the shape. Yeah.
Usually it's like fighting games. You can see like, here's your different fighters, and this is where their strengths are. I feel like you could take the OSR. You could do a thing like that with OSR where one of the little points is the mood. Is it an OSR mood? And Mork Borg is not really up there. But if you then go the creature stat blocks, I think you could grab a Mork Borg creature and run it pretty easily in another OSR styled game. And so that one could be pretty far out there. I think you could probably do that kind of a mapping and see, because some people, all they want is the mood, right? All they want is a heroic mood. And other people I want a menagerie of 1 million monsters. Like so many monsters, I could never roll them all into the game or whatever. So then maybe pick and choose which ones you wanted out of those.
Maybe we should be the one to do that. Maybe we should
chart it.
Set up the site and do it. OSR charting. OSR charting or something. We'll call
OSRcharting.com. I'm calling it here. Copyright.
Reserved.
There you go. OSR charting. I'm writing that down. I wrote it down, so now it has to be done. No, but that might be interesting. Kind of, if you're interested in doing something like that, maybe we can.
I love a chart. I'm not going to say no to multiple charts.
You know,
I'm not going to say no to a graph.
I'm an Excel guy.
Yeah. Ken is definitely the spreadsheet wizard. That's. I mean, I love spreadsheets. I love spreadsheets. I consider myself pretty good with the spreadsheet and being a spreadsheet warrior or whatever, and being able to set them up and make tables and all that fun stuff. But seeing some of Ken's work with some spreadsheets recently, he's definitely he's above and beyond me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So I give you that.
I'll take it.
So any other thoughts on Castles Crusades being OSR? Joe, what are your thoughts? You think CNC is OSR or?
Well, the way you have modified it, because like I said, I just have the player's guide. I don't have the Castle Keeper's guide, so I never even looked inside it unless I accidentally peeked at it or something when I'm walking by you or something. Just a little accidental peek. But so I don't know if you guys have played like Slay Industries. I don't think that's OSR, but I think it kind of has maybe the same spirit where you can you're just another cog in the machine. You can die easily or you can become a complete badass. But that has like 3 different progression systems in it. One of them's like your equipment, one of them's your money, and one of them's your what they call SCL, security clearance level. And the interesting thing about the security clearance level, it's kind of like your reputation in the world, or at least with the only people that matter in the world, which is Slay Industries, because they control everything in that campaign setting. And so you can actually be low level, have no money, have no equipment, but if your SCL reputation is high enough, you can just walk into an armory, be like, yeah, we're borrowing this powered armor, put it on, and just walk out literal guns blazing with it, with a ton of ammo, and you can pay it back when you get around to it because the company trusts you. And so like Roger kind of has all 3 of those going in his Castles and Crusades game, because we have you have your experience with the monsters, your level ups, you have your gold, which is going to determine your equipment, but also you have to balance it by using it for your levels, because you don't want to be under leveled and have some good equipment or whatever, you know what I mean? And then you have like your reputation in the world, which if we were just a bunch of evil murdering bastards going around, we'd probably be kicked out of like the main starting area, which is like our hub where we start all our quests, end all our quests, and stuff like that. So I don't know that that's OSR, but I think it's a good way to play because, you have a reason not to be a murder hobo. And then you kind of pick, what do you want? Do you want a level? Do you want some equipment? Do you want to hire people? Like the money is limited. Even though we did one time find like a good amount of money, it's still limited. I used it to get a couple of levels because I was like, okay, I'm playing a thief and I'm a little low level or a rogue, and let me just increase my level because that helps me with my skill checks. So I think that's what I want to do more than go and try to buy like fancy equipment or something, or hire a bunch of mercenaries to do work for me. So maybe not OSR because I wasn't around for the. I'm coming into the OSR, learning from other people what it is, but I wasn't. Was it George? You said you started playing like '84 or something. Like I was born in '86, so I'm a little behind you. So.
That's fair, but that was just OS. OSR would have been the later version.
Yeah.
Yeah. No R.
Yeah. Yeah. Technically, like basic isn't basic, and AD&D aren't considered OSR. I don't think.
It's too much work to classify it.
I mean, that's
sit
also
down and play the
true, right?
game.
Yeah,
It's like the basis for all else. So but yeah, that's interesting. So what are our likes and dislikes about CNC? I guess what do we like about it? What's like the best part about it? What do you guys
Are
think?
we sponsored?
No.
If we're sponsored, I
hate
like
that we're not
everything. It's great. Like there are no flaws.
We don't have any sponsors. I mean, we got a couple of viewers, and so we're very, very small. But no, I know we covered a lot of stuff today.
I'll answer that question on one condition.
Yeah.
On one condition.
Yeah.
When I hit my time limit, you tell me that's enough because other people need to talk.
Oh boy.
You know me.
No, I know.
Some of the stuff that I like about CNC is one, I personally like the Troll Lords. Like you said, we've played with all of them. When I see Steven at a con, he sees me and says, "Jason, how you doing?" And man, I'm nobody. I am under no delusion that I am somebody important in the RPG sphere. I am not. But Steven remembers me when I see him at GaryCon. And if you don't think that guy is busy at GaryCon, then you've never seen him in action.
Yeah.
Davis was the same way. You and I played a game with Davis, and we had him rolling on the floor laughing at what we were doing. Mm-hmm. And when we saw him the next time, he was like, "Oh, you guys, that was so much fun." That is really important to me. It's what do you do? Oh, is that my time?
I got your time.
So I got 4 minutes, 40 seconds. It's this, and I feel the same way about Kelsey with Shadow Dark. I met her at GaryCon, had her sign my dice box. She was so humble. She was so incredibly real that I was like, wow, I like her as a person now, not just her super cool game. And then I met her at Page 2 years later, and I walked up to her to ask her how she was doing. I was like, "We met at GaryCon." And I said, "Yeah." I was like, "You remember me?" And she's like, "You had me sign your box that Ed Greenwood had signed." And I was like, "Oh my God." And I'm like, "Oh, this chick's so freaking cool." So as soon as she announces the Kickstarter, I'm there because I like her. And it's the same with the Troll Lords. Those guys are so cool. They are so passionate about what they're doing, and their bona fides are totally legit. They knew Gary Gygax. So
Yeah.
when they speak about his product and him writing with them and looking over their shoulder saying, maybe take a look at this, it's real. It's not a marketing play. It's not we knew Gary Gygax, come by Troll Lords. They don't play that. We knew Gary, and he played this one game with us, and he was like, "Oh, guys, you really need to take a look at this." So we did. So I liked them personally. The system is easy to use. The first time that my friend Mike introduced me to Castles and Crusades, it was because they had released free PDFs, And we were looking for something besides 5th edition. I do not like 5th edition. I've been very vocal about that, but that's what the group was playing. But Mike was looking for something that was a little better than 5th edition, which is not difficult. So he was like, hey, this company is giving out free PDFs of their player's handbook and their Castle Keeper guide. You should download these. It's free. Why not? Okay, cool. So I did. And the Siege engine, I wasn't too sure about it at first. It actually took me playing 3 games in George's con one-shots before it finally latched on, and I was like, oh, this is how it works. Okay, I get this now. But I have 3 minutes left. Is that what you're saying?
No, it was 8 games. It took you
8 games. The classes, I love the classes. I think they're super cool. I've said multiple times, if a system has a good ranger, I'm willing to overlook flaws in the system because I love playing rangers. I always want it. It's like when I play Weird Frontiers. I arrive early to the table and I grab the gunslinger because that is the only class I'm interested in playing because I want to play a gunslinger. When I play one-shots in CNC, I grab the ranger, or I bring my ranger to the table and say, this is my con ranger. May I play him? George knows who he is. He's like, yeah, sit down and play your ranger. Of course, we need a ranger. Why not? So I really like that. But it's not just the ranger that's good. I've been playing a cleric for over a year now. Man, the CNC cleric is so good. I don't feel he's overpowered. But if you really focus on making him effective, your cleric can do great things. And I really like that a lot. I think it's balanced. I think the experience cap is a little high. We talked about that. But other than that, man, I mean, it's just such a well-made game. Are we going with things we don't like after this? Or are we?
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's talk about likes, then we can move on to dislikes.
So really what I like about CNC is just about everything. It's a great game, and I'm glad that we picked it.
Yeah. George, what do you like about it? I mean, you've been running it for a while, so.
Honestly, one of the first, and it's a minor detail, but I think it's an important detail. The first 2, real quick, are going to be it's printed in the U.S.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely. Yes.
Second part is their vets program. I'm not a vet, but I really respect what they do for veterans.
50% off of everything.
Yeah. And what, free if you're in
if you're deployed. If you're deployed, yeah.
The second part is I'm going to call it customization. You got primes, 3 for a human, 2 for a demi-human. And while you're required to take certain, primes, you have the choice to metagame it or role play it, right? One of the characters in my game is a barbarian, so he had to take Constitution. And I forgot the one prime he took, but the third prime was in charisma. He wanted to be prime in charisma, which, fear effects don't affect him. The story, though, is that, from a role-playing aspect, he wanted to be the Conan type, in that in so many levels, he wants to be the king. Yeah. And charisma was important to him. It depends on the game that you're running, just like 3.5, you don't bring a skill-based character into a dungeon that isn't going to help you. It's better to get combat expertise or something, or in 2nd edition AD&D, you get blind fighting instead of, oratory or whatever. It all depends on what kind of game you're playing in. So primes, customizing your characters, that's important to me. The mentality of the game. There's a section of with an iron thumb, when to roll the dice. all pieces that are, if you read them and read them well, and even the foreword of the book, it's telling you this is what the game is like. And, my classic example is I had an elven ranger next to a gnome illusionist on top of a cinder hill, and the elf went running down the hill and pulled back his arrow and shot. And the gnome goes, I'm going to do the same thing. The gnome illusionist, I'm going to run down the hill and like have a dagger ready to throw. And I go, just give me a dex roll to see how well you get down the hill. And he botched it with a 2, tumbling down the hill. And the player looked at me, why are you doing this to my character? The elf ranger didn't have to do this. And I'm like, he's not Legolas, but you know what? He's the elf. He's the ranger. One, you don't want to see that failure because it's not heroic. It's outside of the character class. Mm-hmm. But, it's something that you can do with the game. And it might be considered arbitrary, but it's something that, do you want the characters to fail or a certain type of character? What if the opposite happened where, the elven ranger rolled down the hill, but the gnome made it down without a problem? It would be an awkward gaming moment, especially for the player of the elf. I like the flexibility of the system. And not to get into a dislike, but there's pros and cons behind that flexibility that you do have to make some judgments in the game while you're doing it, and to make it work a certain way. And that can be a little bit time consuming, or you got to be thinking on the fly for some things. But overall, I truly love the system. I'm really passionate about it. With a lot of the things that they've done in the book.
Nice, thanks, Joe. What do you got?
Well, as you know, I wanted to play 3.5, but you are sick of 3.5, and wanted to play Beck Me.
What you wanted to play what the cool kids were playing?
I mean, it's I feel like everyone's first D&D is like just their opinion is going to be like, yeah, that's the best one, whatever it was. Like some people I know who started with 4th, they're like, it's the best one. And I'm like, that's not even, but there are people out there, it was their first one and they're just like, yeah, this is great. This is great. And I'm not going to, I'm not going to argue with them. I run Morkborg. So like, I
will argue with them.
I have no base to stand on and argue with anyone about. I just play what I enjoy. They play what they enjoy. But I feel like Castles and Crusades, it's like, okay, you got like the Beck Me thing going on, but you also have kind of like, you're like halfway to 3rd edition. You don't have the skills, you don't have the ability scores that level up, you don't have like all the I don't know, easy mode stuff, I guess. But you do get like, there's differences in the character classes, big differences. And, if nothing else, like the experience points are completely different because I'm like 8th level, I think, and Jason's 8th level. And my thief was the one, I made that after my cleric died. And Jason has had his cleric since day 1. And we're the same level. So you know what I mean? Like I can do less in some instances, but like, in some instances when I need to make a skill check, it's like, okay, I can usually do that, unless I roll a 1. So, it's I think it's a good trade-off between, you can combine like people like me and people like Roger and, and then, there's a lot of room for like homebrew and stuff. We've been doing a lot of homebrew with it as well. So that I always like when you can homebrew stuff and make up a rule or change a rule because you think it makes more sense this way. And then it's not like the whole system falls apart just because Roger said we can use gold for experience, So it's, I guess it's a testament to Castles and Crusades that, yeah, you can change a few things, make it to your liking, and the system still stands. It doesn't just fall apart or get imbalanced or whatever, So that's all I got.
Nice. Yeah. Ducato.
Yeah, well, obviously I like it. Yeah, guys have touched on some of the things that I do like about it. Joe was just saying the hackability of it, I really like. Because I like to change monsters because most of my guys all my guys are pretty experienced. So, and I kind of now have this reputation of like, yeah, Stan will put a zombie on the table, but we have no friggin' clue what that zombie's actually going to do. It's not going to act like a regular zombie. So I love, like, I almost killed a guy, his character the other night in the last session with a spider swarm that I converted from Pathfinder, first edition. It was awesome. It was great. But yeah, I like that it's hackable. I like what they did with the classes in the player's handbook. I don't use the other ones in some of the other books, and the thing that I really like about those classes, probably the most, like an overall look at them, because we haven't seen all of them at the table, but we've seen a chunk of them, is that they're very distinct. Like if my group's getting together and we play regardless of who shows up, I don't cancel sessions. So if I have 2 people show up, we'll play something. We'll figure it out. But like there'll be times, where the real world, kicks you in the ass and guys can't make it. And say the cleric can't make it. And everybody's like, oh, not me. They're all like, oh no, I'm there in the background, like, yes, healing this time. So they feel that, like, and like, this summer, my friend that plays our halfling rogue, he wasn't able to come to a lot of sessions. He had a lot of family stuff going on and wasn't able to make it. And so they felt like not having the rogue, because unlike like 5th edition, which everybody was used to, where everybody can pretty much do anything they want and everything, which really sucks in my opinion. It's horrible design. CNC isn't like that at all, which is good. And yeah, they do a really good job with that. They have, like, and like Jason said, they have the best version of the Ranger I've seen in any RPG. Like I changed one thing. Actually, I take that back. I've changed 2 things with the Ranger, but they're minor changes. And it's the best version of the class. The inspiration they used for that class is the best. They used Aragorn and Hawkeye from Last of the Mohicans as their inspiration. Right. They did a great job with the Ranger. And yeah, I'm a big fan of all that. And like I said, what else? The hackability was there. And that the individual, the distinctness of the classes, that falls back to something George talked about earlier, with players having to be able to use teamwork, because you don't have classes where everybody can do whatever they want. Like one of my players, coming from 5th edition, he tried to do that early on because he plays the wizard. But like he's a human, so he's got 3 primes. So he took intelligence because he had to, but then he took dex and charisma because he was trying to play like a con man, but he also wanted to be like roguish without multi-classing, which nobody in my group really likes to do. But it still didn't really work out for him. I mean, a little bit it did, but because he's not allowed to add his levels to anything that isn't, if he's trying to do like a rogue thing, like if he tried to pick locks, I don't allow them to add their levels to that, because you're not a rogue. Like it's
outside their class ability.
Right.
Right. It's outside your class ability. You don't get your level bonus to that. And I think that's great, because in a 5th edition game I played a ranger, and the party cleric was better at wilderness survival than I was. Just because he was like a knowledge and he had a better wisdom.
Better wisdom,
like, this is stupid. Like this doesn't make any sense. And George's example of how if you go in and read how to use the ability scores, where they talk about, like, charisma was a good one, because it's like, and this happened to all of us, where you'll have a player that he'll make some great speech to convince a king or whatever to help them, and then you have him roll and he fucking rolls like I do and he sucks and he pooches it. And you're like, well, that speech, like, you never even should have had him roll. Like the whole thing about like dice rolls are like not, and that was a real hard habit to break from playing 5th edition, where you just want them to roll. Like, you roll for everything. And in CNC, it's like, no. If you can, like the elf ranger, yeah, you can run down that hill and shoot an arrow. The Gnome Illusionist, you didn't spend a lot of time doing that. So no, you can't do that. Give me a roll. That's a great call. And that's how that system is designed, and it's really well done that way.
Yeah, fantastic. Ken, what do you got? What do you like about the system?
Well, I'm super new to it.
Sure.
Number one favorite thing about the system is I know some pretty cool guys play in the system, and I can play with them. That's I think my favorite thing.
It's the wonderful DM, right?
The wonderful DM. So I think everything's been said so far that I would say. I'll say it briefly. Pretty light. It's got interesting character classes, and it's hackable. And there seem to be a lot of cool tables. I haven't looked at the GM's guide. The 50% off for veterans means I might actually go get the book now. So I'll look into that. But yeah, overall it's been fun to play. It's one of those I'm a proponent of using the right system for the right game. And so the type of game that you're trying to run, I think, is well suited to Castles and Crusades, right? So things like, we need to get through this battle pretty quickly. Any of the battles that we have been in would have taken, 2 days to run in 5th edition.
Oh my God, yeah.
So and it has a place. I also hate the system, but I understand why some people like it. I get it. And so there are some things that maybe that's suited for, or some people, I'm not sure. But in this case, it's like a really good batch of the universe that you're building and the system itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think everybody pretty much, touched on everything that I was going to say. Definitely, like George mentioned, being print in the United States, I think is big, especially now with, no matter where you fall on any of this stuff, I think it's good to have stuff, produced here in the States. And, I'd rather support, those jobs, the factories, the workers there, the people working the print shop, people designing the stuff and everything else. And, I think it's great. And I know they've been looking into getting a printing, their own printing thing. They print their soft covers in-house. They were going to, and the price ended up going like, I think $50,000 over because everything went up.
Yeah.
And so they canceled that building now. And so they're trying to go at it again. But it was going to be too much. That just happened, I think, like within the last week or two. I think.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that.
But yeah, so that is, I think it's going to be amazing once they get that done. The classes definitely having a clearly defined roles. I know that's been mentioned, but that's, I think, important because, then you have, there obviously there is some overlap because there's 13 classes, I believe, in the book. But they're not like so much of an overlap where like it's an issue. Like you got a cleric that does the healing and like that's it. In other editions like 5e or whatever, you can suit a druid up to do the same thing, or a handful of other classes that can do things probably just as well or whatever, right? Or like Decado mentioned, you can have you can have a cleric that's better at wilderness stuff than the ranger is, and things like that. So so I think that's definitely a plus. They also do the dual classing thing, and they have the normal dual classing, which is the way they used to do it, is just combined everything together and add up the experience. But they also have the class and a half thing where you get certain aspects from the secondary class, which I think is kind of neat, and it's sort of at a discount. You're not paying like the full XP for the class, so I think it's half. But it's kind of interesting the way that works. yeah, like the flexibility. I know it's been mentioned, like because of the way the siege system works. I think that's a lot of it. The flexibility, being able to do anything you want with it, I think is just phenomenal. And that they even have A&A, right? That Amazing Adventures that basically is that, right? That was originally like a more pulp game, but it's sort of turned into like a universal kind of rule set that uses the siege engine. And I think it needs a little bit of work, but it's the tool set is there for you to make whatever you need to make it into and have it work, and to integrate anything and to change anything to get it to work with the siege engine is just super easy. You can just do that just really, really easily. So yeah, so now what do we dislike? I know that there's some people that have some issues with the system.
Are we talking OGL or Reforged?
So yeah, Reforged, I guess. I
Or
know
just
that's
in general.
a big thing. Let's talk about in general, and then we'll touch on Reforged after, because I think I know that that's like a sore spot, and for me too. But I don't think that's that's kind of included in this thing. You know what I mean? Because we're talking about the system in general.
Sure.
So let's save the Reforged stuff until after. So, I mean, my only thing, well, there's a couple things, but my major thing that I dislike, and I know that Jason's going to mention it, so I just wanted to get to it before he did. But the expansion books that they've come out with, I just, man. I'll let Jason touch more on all this, but like they just released, I was really excited for the weapons books that they had.
The Adventurer's Armory,
right, and the Monstrous Armory. And Jason and I were flipping through it, and like all the weapons do like 1d3 damage. and I was like, what is going on here? And there's like a little forward in the book that basically says something like, oh, you can use, you're going to get it. So he's going to get it. But it basically says, oh, you can, here's like some new, ways that you can use these, or just, use the original values. Now, me personally, I don't think we need all of these weapon things and all of that, because we only have so many dice, right? So like, I think there's anything that's anywhere that's larger than a dagger and smaller than, say, a katana, right, does a d6 damage, right? Like we don't need that granularity in a system, so you could just whatever, right? Any of those things are just short swords, right? And a long sword could just be any other sword, right? Like that's my opinion, but yeah. So those books, I really wasn't a fan of. The other books that they have on the different, like there's the Celtic book, and that's the only one that I have. I know there's a couple other ones. They're lacking in art, and I don't know. I think the editing needs to be better, and that's where I'll say, I'll kind of leave that there. But did you find it or no?
No.
I
cannot find my Adventurer's Army. I'm a little annoyed by that.
It went on the burn pile?
Absolutely not. It's still useful. It's got a ton of cool weapons in it. I would never throw it away.
It does have a bunch of cool stuff.
I've got my war mounts. I have no idea where it is.
So I've got the 3 core books, and I think that's plenty. And as far as the weapons and stuff go, I think like that can all be kind of hand waved. As far as like what it is. Somebody wants a katana, somebody wants a Chris, somebody like whatever. Fine, it just does a D6 or a D8 or whatever, and and that's it. But that's kind of my biggest gripe. There's a handful of other small stuff that I know Jason's going to cover a bunch of, and I'm sure the rest will get covered. So you wanna take it away? And,
no, how about I go last?
You want to go the other way around?
Yeah.
go to Ken. Ken, what do you got? What do you dislike about CNC? Now, this is the part I'm just going to warn you. Don't you might get disconnected if you mention the people in this one. Depends on who you point out. No. For the things you like, you mentioned people that you play with.
Things that I hate. Oh man, this one guy. So
douche.
Okay, so this is not a game that I would pick off the shelf and run. Right now, like I think my favorite game is Daggerheart, which is on the opposite spectrum of this. It's got some things in common. It's got some rulings type, ideology in common, but there's very much other, there's a lot of other things that are very different. Even the last OSR style game, if we're calling things OSR, I ran Worlds Without Numbers, and I ran that for a couple of years. But even in that game, I just told my players, you tell me when you level up. I'm not tracking it. I'm not handing out XP. You are setting the milestones. I'm designing the world to be what it is, and you come to the table and tell me when you level up, and I'm fine with it. And if you're going crazy and going fast, I'm not going to fight you on it. You're only robbing yourself of the joy of playing in danger, right? And it went great. It was a fantastic time. And so the XP, the counting out the individual XP and coins and stuff, not something I would ever do in a game. I don't hate that. It's a style of game. And as a player, it's fine. But as a GM, I could never run a game where I'm like, okay, it was 6 kobolds times 50 each. You guys have 300 XP split amongst 5 players. That's 60 XP each. It's just like, I don't know. As much as I like spreadsheets, I still don't like that type of thing. Yeah, and I don't think you would have to play the game that way. Obviously, you can turn any game into a milestone leveling game if you really want to, but it probably wouldn't suit the campaign you're trying to run, right?
I think I apologize to interject here, but I think it doesn't. Milestone leveling doesn't work in some of these like the OSR style games where you have different XP charts for different classes.
Yeah,
the XP charts different for classes because the
intention
fifth
is
level.
Like
yeah. So you'd have to do it in like a certain XP number, instead of a level number. In my opinion,
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, but please continue.
Okay. You mentioned the editing. It is a little bit like there's little like nitpicky things where in this chart the hint says that it does one thing, but the spell actually does a slightly different thing, and in the moment it really sucks that you don't have the thing it said in the hint. But other than that, I mean it's great otherwise. It's not too long. I'm not going to go back through all the good things. I think those are my biggest gripes. Counting individual XPs and stuff like that, and the some of the editing stuff. I think those are my only 2 dings.
Sure. That's over to you, Ducato. What do you got?
I'll have to jump on the train with the editing. I don't.
Yeah.
Especially when you pick up another book, like you pick up the Hyperborea books or OSE or any of those, which are like OSEs, like to me, like just for functional book is like probably the gold standard. I mean, you just immediately open it and you have every chart you need, either as a player or as a referee. I'm not a big fan of some of the editing choices that they've made. And like you said, Roger, actually, a lot of the extra books, like I have my whole top shelf over there is all Castles and Crusades, and I use maybe a quarter of it. I use the Player's Handbook, Monsters and Treasures, and I have the Tome of Unclean, which is the demons and devils and stuff. I use that at certain times in the campaign. But honestly, the rest of it, I mean, I have all the Celtic book, all that stuff. I did use that a little bit at the beginning of the campaign, but that book is really more like a history book. Like it's it's not a gaming book. Like that's a history book. You could give that to like a classroom to study.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the mechanics in that are nil. It's more just it's too much for gaming in my opinion. So the break it down, and then even the Monsters and Treasures book, I obviously use that a lot, but I also use a lot of other ones that are just as easy to use, like Joe Block's Adventures Dark and Deep Bestiary. I use that more than any other monster book.
Yeah, I saw that you said that on a live stream. Yeah,
right there. That's a great book. If you're looking for a monster manual, that's a great one. And it's so easy. I mean, to convert, like, because CNC is so hackable that no issue whatsoever. And he has some other good like stuff in there. So yeah, those are my two big ones that I can think of right off the top of my head. Like a lot of the extra stuff coming out, and like we'll talk about Reforged here in a minute, but
sure.
Yeah, the editing's the big one for me. I wish it was a little cleaner.
The editing, what really gets me about like the editing, and and I mean now we're into Reforged, but so it's a different kind of thing. But like you take like the player's handbook and up to before Reforged, like there's still some editing things in there, and they're on the 10th. They're on the 10th printing, and it's like, come on, guys, like we gotta get on that, Joe, what have you seen that you don't like?
Well, I believe I've been pretty good at voicing every little nitpick I have, but so I did think of one more thing I liked, and I'd like to get into that before I get into things I dislike.
Sure.
I don't want to like get on basic fantasy, the basic fantasy books, but the art was horrible, and I understand why. It was super budget production, but the art in Castles and Crusades, I don't think I'd seen a piece of art in there where I'm like, oh, I need to get a print of this and hang it up somewhere. But the art is like pretty good. I'd say it's at least near 3.5, which I assume has a way higher budget. So I think the art in Castles and Crusades is like, if you turn to the class page, it's like, that kind of looks like what I had envisioned in my mind as what the character class would look like, or I've seen a few of the monsters, like I said, as I'm passing by or whatever. Like, that looks like that. And I think you showed us this like wolf or something last time, and I was like, okay, that's kind of. So the art's, it does its job. Good presentation.
Sure.
With the Joe Block, just because we brought him up, I don't know if you guys have seen his commercials that he made for his new
those are cool.
AD&D Light. They're awesome. So what I don't like the way the book's laid out, but like I said, that's because I started with 3.5. I just like when a book's in the order the 3.5 book is, because I'm familiar with it. Like the classes are like way into the book, and it's just
look what you got.
There you go.
Is that the light one already?
Wow.
Wasted no time.
Oh yeah.
Is that the first one off the press? Do they have a number here?
No, they're not numbered. It's not. I don't know if it's serial number 1, but
So like all my nitpicks with Castles and Crusades are just basically, like if I'm going this far to play Castles and Crusades, I'd rather take the extra 10 minutes in character generation just to play 3.5, personally. But I mean, it's does its job just like the art. It does its job. You want to play back me. I want to play 3.5. Meet somewhere in the middle, and then we can homebrew a little thing and here and there, and why not? It's good. I that might sound like an insult to the book, but I'm not trying to insult it. I'm saying it's good at what it does.
Sure.
And what it doesn't do, it doesn't do. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's a personal preference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No. Yeah. We hear you. George, what do you got? Are you you got a whole list or just a couple things or what?
You know what? I keep my list small with this, but the editing and format, and it's coming from a different angle. I can handle the editing and the formatting, like I can work around it, judging it and things. But, when you have someone new coming into the game and they bring up an error or are a contradiction, and you're kind of standing there and you're handcuffed and you just got to take the punches. There's not much you can say because, 9th printing, 10th printing, and they're sometimes pretty glaring mistakes. The charging, is it ×3 movement or ×4? It's not clear, and it's on the nth edition of, Castles and Crusades. But again, once someone comes up to you and points it out, it's a hard blow to deflect. I've run out of excuses. That's really for me the worst part, because it's personal now. You know what I mean? I can't defend it. There's things that have been added, especially with Reforged, that would have been nice in other editions. So, for example, the area of a torch burning was added to Reforged, but the prior editions don't tell you the radius.
Really, wow.
Yeah, or you really have to search for it.
Yeah.
So this other guy who writes a book, which has some awesome stuff in it, you look up, an oil lamp, or a torch, and it tells you right behind it what the radius is or the duration. It's all right there. And, it's hard for the trollers to compete against that. And it's not a major issue, hey, it's 30, 40 feet, depending, if the last 10 feet, it's dim. I can work with that. I can do a story, but, a lot of the people looking at these games want it spelled out, and it's not there. And again,
what printing is that? What printing is that? Hyperborea?
That is the third printing.
Third.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And not much has changed since first.
What's your player's handbook for CNC? What printing is that in?
Well, I have a Reforged copy, but I think I have all the way back to like first or second printing.
Yeah. But, nice.
And I have the second printing of Hyperborea as well, which I truly love that book. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
It's also a monster if you have to carry it around a con.
I did not buy the full book for the second edition one. I only bought the players handbook there, and then or the players portion, whatever. And then for the third, I went all out. So I don't have the full book for the second edition, but I've seen it. It's definitely it rivals the DCC books.
Yeah, I want one for my collection, but I wouldn't want to use it at a table.
Yeah,
the second printing or the first,
the big one.
Oh,
the second edition. Yeah, the second edition printing.
That's like Weird Frontiers. Thing is
I have Bible.
They're unicorns.
I love that book, and I'm glad that I have the special edition, but I can't take it to a con, man. If I know David Beatty's going to be there, I'll bring it. Please sign it. Go back on my shelf, and I'll never touch it again. It's just too much.
Yeah, it's a beefy book.
Yeah. George, did you have anything else?
I think it's with every edition of D&D. The second, any core classes outside the core book are overpowered. That's just I think any. I remember that with Pathfinder. I remember that with 3.5, or some crazy feat that the vow of poverty for the monks. Totally overpowered out of game. Keep it away. But on the flip side, I do understand they have to make new content too. But with like the Adventurer's Backpack, I think it requires a DM to really go through those books and cross out some of the abilities or tone it back. Great ideas for character classes, but a little bit overpowered at times.
Yeah, they're overpowered compared to what's in the player's handbook.
Yeah. It needs to be on par.
That was one of the things that Roger, and I want to say Roger and I, because the two of us talked about it, but it was Roger's decision in the end. His decision was Player's Handbook. That's it.
That's what I did too.
I have a backpack that I got out of the Adventurer's backpack, and I said, "Hey, this backpack allows me to carry more weight. What do you think?" And he was like, "It's a backpack. I don't care. I'm not really worried about that. It's fine."
I also said, "Don't tell anybody."
I don't remember that because I told everyone.
I'm gonna need that backpack.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did the same. I had several players that bought the Adventurer's backpack, and I told them, I said, we're not using any of those classes. So
Yeah.
At best, those would be an NPC class because I like NPCs and villains to be able to do things that characters can't do. But I've only used one in 3 years. Like I don't even really use that book that often. There's another one. The backpack's nice, but my players do. They buy equipment and stuff, but
Right.
I don't really use that.
But when your Player's Handbook has, like Roger said, 13 classes, I don't know if that's the right number, but there are so many classes already in the Player's Handbook that are meant to be played with each other. Right. You don't need them. You just put it on the shelf and let it go.
Yeah, it's not like a light version of the game where you only get like 4 classes, and maybe you want something a little different. There's no need to use them, in my opinion. Anyway, I mean, some people might like them, but I found them when I read through them. I found them overpowered, and in comparison to the core classes, and I was like, no, we're not using these.
Yeah, I'm generally a big proponent of less classes. I like the traditional 4, or even I think a lot of the classes, even the ones in CNC, can be combined. And most of the things are just kind of thematic or whatever, just class-based things. And I know Jason and I go back and forth on some of that sometimes, but I mean, I'm on the complete opposite end of the spectrum from anybody else. Like I think that we can get rid of we don't need wizards and clerics. I think they're both the same class. So and I know that's like a huge debate. I know that people want to. No, that's like a hot take. I know that people think I'm absolutely crazy, but
we're live, right?
Maybe we'll do it.
It's only fighters and wizards. That's it.
Maybe we'll do. That's all we need, really. I mean, we can talk about that, on another stream. George, we kind of piggybacked on some stuff you were saying. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
No, that's about it.
We got to give Jason his hour.
Well, good night, everyone.
F you, man.
5 a.m. more sleeping.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of Jason's gripes, I think a lot of it's been mentioned. I'm not trying to take away from you. Please.
That's why I wanted to go last
and stuff. Yeah.
First, I want to touch on something that Ducato said before I forget, because I will. You mentioned like the Celtic book and all that. I'm a big fan of books like that. Like the blue and the green series from second edition.
Yeah.
Man, I love those books. I remember when Charlemagne's Paladins came out for second edition. It was one of the green books, and the Rome book. I was beside myself because it had so much of this history written at an 8th grade level. Because I was in 8th grade, but
Sure. I
didn't have to pick up this humongous book to read about Charlemagne's Paladins. I just thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
So I have, you mentioned the Celtic and all that stuff. I have all of those books for CNC.
So do I.
Most of them frustrate the hell out of me. I am a huge history buff. I purposely took history classes in college because I wanted to write about these things. There's very little that I do not know about the Peloponnesian War. So when I read about it in a book that the Ford talks about it being history, and you mold this into your campaign the way you want to, if you're going to tell me it's history, I expect it to be accurate. I expect that the historical names to be spelled correctly. I certainly expect the time periods to be accurate. And the one on Greece is the important one. I'm a crazy. I could not care less about Celtic gods. They're all the same. They all want fire and death, and they use a spear. You could bore me to tears with that nonsense. The Greek gods are the gods. It's Greek, Norse, and Egyptian. Those are the three pantheons that people think about when they think about polytheism. It's them. So when I pick up the Greek book, because I want to run a Greek campaign and I want to be able to use this as a source book, it really pisses me off when it's inaccurate. It pissed me off so much that I spoke to Stephen about it. And so I would actually put this over to another one of the good things. I talked to Stephen about the inaccuracies in the Greek compendium and was expressing my frustration at that. And he was like, I'm really sorry. You're absolutely correct. Here's what happened. He gave me the whole story about it. And I was like, dude. And he said they have another guy that they plan on re-releasing that series written by people who are more professional and are writing based off of historical fact and not off historical opinion. And when he told me that, I was like, check. As soon as you publish it, I'll buy it. I'm good. So, but for me, that just goes back to the same thing that everybody has already said. The editing is atrocious in these books. The layouts are atrocious. I am an 8th level cleric. I still don't know if I can make a 1st level potion because potions are in 3 different sections. I think there's 2 sections in the player's handbook, 1 section in the DM's guide, and they all contradict each other. Dude, I can cast 4th level spells. Can I make a potion of cure light or not? Please just tell me what I need to do without all this gobbledygook in there. George touched on the torch radius. Perfect example. If you look at so much of the Castles and Crusades, there, in fact, I think on one of George's forums, on one of his Discord forums, we were all talking about this. The wall of text that the trolls throw at you. I mean, read this dictionary, but then I look at something like the torch and I have no idea how bright this thing is. I don't know how long a pint of oil lasts. So I have to go look at AD&D, wizards, or not wizards, but TSR's AD&D or Joe Block's AD&D or Dragon Slayer and say, oh, okay, 1 pint of oil lasts 1 hour and this lantern causes to burn this bright. That may seem like minor detail to some people, but when I'm going through a dungeon, I need to know how much oil I have. That is important to me. The encumbrance value thing is kind of vague. It took us a while. We kind of pieced it all together. Some of us are more strict about it than others. I am extremely strict about it. Every single item I have is recorded by weight and it's in its locations because I'm crazy, but I like that sort of thing. But man, like we've already said, the format is so freaking difficult. Going to Reforged specific, Stephen was desperate to get away from OGL, and we actually talked to him about that. And he said he was thinking about doing it with the 4th printing, but he decided, we're going to fix stuff, and then later on we'll produce a Reforged. And I was like, okay, if that's your reason, I don't really get it. Why wouldn't you just kill 2 birds with 1 stone? But that's fine. But now Reforged is out. And like Roger said, the first printing of Reforged is the 10th printing of the player's handbook for CNC. Not only are there the same spelling mistakes that were in the previous 9 printings, there are new spelling mistakes. Some of the spells have the most cockamamie names that I'm like, I just want to cast Rock to Mud. What's it called? Turned soft soil into liquidy mud, maybe. And I'm like, dude, I don't even know where to look this thing up. And it's really, really frustrating. For the non-spellcaster classes, a longsword's a longsword. I'm going to do D8 damage, roll a D20 to hit. I'm good to go. But for the spellcasters, especially people like me who've been playing for 30-something years, and, magic missile is a magic missile, fireball is a fireball. I get that you're trying to get away from OGL. You don't want to have to pay that licensing fee. You don't want to have to worry about wizards being retarded again and flipping the switch on everybody. I totally get that.
Yep.
But man, there's some things that just don't make sense in this book, and that bugs me a lot.
It does.
Well, they did
like
the.
Those... Oh, go ahead.
They did like the wall of iron became wall of resilient alloy, and it's like what? So
What?
that means the problem word was iron. Like
Right.
I don't. No, like I mean, I understand like he's nervous and doesn't want to get sued by wizards. Like I mean, I understand that they're a huge, corporation, whatever, and they will just just put you in litigation and just put you under if they really wanted to, right? But some of that it's like why why is this a thing, and I don't really understand it. But then there's things like the phase spider became void spider, and it's like, okay, that's fine because the word displacer or the word phase was the problem, right? So they changed phase to void. So okay, fine, void spider, that's fine. But you look at displacer beast. And displacer beast, what's the problem word there? Displacer or beast? Well, the problem word is beast because it's called a displacer cat now, which
legally distinct.
Which is right, legally distinct, right? And but keep it uniform, like keep phase spider or change. You know what I mean? If you're gonna change phase spider to void spider, then change displacer beast to void beast, you know what I mean?
Void beast sounds cool.
Right. I mean, like keep the so that to me is super annoying, especially because I've played, and people coming in to the new system probably they don't have this problem, right? But like me, I want a phase spider here in these, in the woods because that's what I remember. So now I gotta find what the new name is, or like good luck finding the beholder. I've found it 3 times and there's like 2 of them in there and they're different names and I forget what they're called. And they're not like eye monster or something. It's something.
No.
I forget what it is, and I have trouble finding it every time.
It's like the prismatic beast or something like that. Prismatic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Something like that. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But it's just a weird thing that doesn't make it doesn't make perfect sense. So
the way I didn't back the Reforged. I have the Reforged Monsters and Treasure, which some of it I like because they took out that big chunk of Fey in the middle and just kept in like the common Fey with a plan to do a Fey book, which that's fine. Do that because I like Fey stuff, but I didn't need that huge chunk in the middle of the book. So I don't mind that. And they added some stuff that wasn't in it before. There's like their version of the Mind Flayer and stuff like that. That's fine. But what killed me on Reforged right off the bat was how they did spells in the player's handbook. And it's just horrible.
The layout.
What's that?
Is it the layout of it?
Yeah, it's awful.
So Stephen, he had mentioned that the reason he did that was because in the original book when he did it, it was a nightmare for layout because he had actual tables built in for all the spells, and it all had to fit in perfect, and it caused a nightmare when they went to layout every time something moved. So for Reforged, he decided to just do away with that and just have a written thing, which is an absolute nightmare because it doesn't say right at the beginning of the spell, it's this type of spell, here's the range, and all that. And it's
for example, last weekend I was at ShireCon and I played CNC with DM Bloodworth, and
Mhm.
I played the cleric in the party, and we were using the starter set, and like looking up the spells, I was like, what the fuck? I'm like this is not fast. This is
Yes.
not smooth at the
Yeah.
table. Like this is not good. Like this is I would scour eBay or other sites to find older versions of the player's handbook if I needed more of them. I have like
Yeah.
3 of them, so I don't need any more. But
And there's some
I-
there's some that make perfect sense. Like I'm like there's no magic missile, it's Magi's missile. Like that's
Right.
fine, right? Like I'm fine with that. The discern instead of detect, like that's a little annoying, but it's like okay, you could find that because it reads the same and it's in the same part of the book that you'd expect to find the if you go looking for detect magic, you find discern magic. Oh, okay, this is obviously it. Like, and it's fine. But it's the weird name stuff.
I like discern better than detect, for especially like discern disposition. I think
Your
is more
disposition
evocative
instead
of
of
what I'm
alignment.
doing, right? Yeah.
One of the things that set me off early on in Reforged, Soundstorm is, it's the Reforged Soundburst. It tells you that it tells you it stuns. If you fail the save, or if the creature fails the save, then it's stunned for 1 round. If you look inside, okay, cool, stun. Okay, it says Soundstorm. Okay, great, but it doesn't tell me what stun does. So I look, okay, more stun. Okay, Monk Stunning Fist. Surely that will tell me what stun does. So I look at the Monk Stunning Fist. No, it does not. It doesn't tell you what the effects of stun are. And so then there was something else that causes stun. So I looked there. No, it's not there either. I had to actually go to George's Discord and say, hey, George, can you please tell me what stun does? And he was like,
I did the same thing.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. When you go into the combat modifiers, it lists several things. You didn't think maybe define stun in the combat modifiers to tell me one place I can look in the player's handbook that I can find this when there are 3 different things that cause this effect? It's things like that I'm like, I'm not your editor. I'm not being paid to fix this book. This is on you to do this. And
that's the thing too. Like think of it this way: like we're all like experienced gamers, and we're frustrated with this. What if you're a brand new person, and we have other resources to fall back on? I can pick up a different, AD&D book, whatever, Dragon Slayer, any book, but if you're a brand new person, and you're like, hey, I'm gonna grab, CNC. Everybody says how good it is or whatever. And then you're trying to figure this out, and all you have is those books. Like it's not very conducive to like a new player. Like it's I mean, and what's frustrating as a veteran player and someone that has a few years of playing Castles Crusades and can see how good of a system it is. Like at its core, it's a really good system. Is that I think that if they would clean all this stuff up and make it more player friendly game, as a whole player friendly, they'd have a system, a game that would be like next level, like competing with like at least with like Paizo level. Like it's a better game than I played Pathfinder. I think I like it better than Pathfinder because it has a little bit of crunch, but not too much for my pea brain to try to absorb. And I think they could just bring the game to the next level. But right now it's kind of like, it's a good game at its core, but man, sometimes you got to wade through some shit to get to that.
And what kills me about that is they got to the 10th printing and still had a bunch of errors that you could still find. And then now with Reforged, they've gone through and they've changed everything. And it's like starting over at first printing again. So now, like, I feel we got to get past the 10th Reforged printing before like we start, to see like this stuff get cleaned up or whatever.
Yeah, and I already own 4 different printings of the player's handbook. Man, I don't want to buy another one. I love the Troll Lords, and I've got 3, more than happy to support them, and I will continue to support them. And I want to caveat all of my frustration and all the things I say that are jacked up about CNC. still a great system.
Absolutely.
I will still support them because the Troll Lords themselves are wonderful people.
Yep.
But
Absolutely.
I'm not going to keep giving you $50 every couple of years, knowing that the product that I'm buying still has the same mistakes from 8 years ago.
Well,
yeah. No, and those guys were on that too, right? And I'm just going to basically reiterate that the Troll Lords are wonderful. The game is wonderful. I mean, I would encourage anybody to go out, buy it, play it. These are just our gripes from going through it. You know, I would in no way say, hey, these are reasons to not buy the game. Like that's
right.
You know, like buy the game, love it. There's just, you know, these are just frustrations that we're venting about.
I think hit it right on with. They are right on the cusp of, you know, like they're good.
Mm-hmm.
And if they just did a little bit more, it would be over the top. Like it would be above Pathfinder, Paizo, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we could put Paizo out of business. Yeah.
I totally agree with that. You know, Dakota, you were talking about playing Pathfinder. When 3.5 ended and Pathfinder picked it up and started going with it, man, I loved Pathfinder because I was a big fan of 3.5. You know, and I still am a big fan of 3.5. But about halfway through Pathfinder 1's run, it was just splat book after it was garbage. And I think if somebody like the Trolls had come out with this rock solid system, which I think Siege Engine is, and they had put out a more cohesive product, it could have dethroned Paizo easily. And when Paizo put out 2nd edition Pathfinder, I was at Gen Con for the pre-release. I was at the big Gen Con thing where they started talking about Pathfinder 2. And my buddy and I that I went there with, we were big Pathfinder fans. So we played in the prototype game that they were running. And half an hour into the game, I looked at my friend and said, this is the only curse word I've said tonight. This game is shit and I don't want to play it anymore. And I've never looked at PF2 again. I am so done with Pathfinder. I want nothing.
I've never played. I played Pathfinder 1 when, same as you, Jason, when 3.5 ended and then 4E came out, and I was like, nope. I was like Pathfinder, and we played Pathfinder for a while. Like, I mean, the books were coming out as we were playing it, and then, like you said, it just blew up. There's a billion splat books, you know, and all this stuff, and then it just got. For me, once we got into the higher levels, it was just, oh my god, like I'm not
way out of control. Yeah,
it's just out of control.
Like, so much further out of control than 3.5 high level was, and 3.5 high level was crazy.
Yep.
I will say though, about Paizo and all their books and stuff, their adventure paths, I think were top notch, and I think they were way better than anything that like Wizards had, you know, was putting out at the time, or Wizards has put out, you know, in, you know, for 5th edition, even 3rd edition, you know, I mean, they had great adventures and stuff, but they had, you know, a big cohesive story that you could say, hey, you want to play a pirate thing? Here's like 6 whole adventures that'll take you, you know, a few sessions a piece, and you know,
if you look at Paizo too, that's how they got their start. Matter of fact. Oh shit, where is it? Right over here. I pulled this out a while ago, but I have a stack back when Paizo did Dragon and Dungeon magazine. That's where they first started doing AP. And the Age of Worms, I have the entire thing sitting on the other side of my laptop.
Nice. Awesome.
That's how they got their start. So their adventure paths, I mean, I'm sure there's some stinkers in there. I mean, but like I've listened to like the Glass Cannon guys do Giant Slayer, and I've actually collected some of it because of them, you know, because I was like, oh, that sounded really cool. And I've done a little bit. I have a few. I have like Kingmaker. I have like Rise of the Rune Lords.
Good stuff.
Stuff like that.
Kingmaker was
they did a great job with their adventures. But like you said, I've never played 2nd edition Pathfinder. I've tried listening to a couple different live plays of it, and I wouldn't play it. Like when I was getting ready to switch, one of my players wanted me to look at Pathfinder 2. He's like, oh, I don't think it's that crunchy. And I'm like,
whoa,
Pathfinder, what are you talking about? And but I went to Crossroad Games, and my local game store, and I thumbed through it, and I was like, yeah, no, absolutely not. And every live play I've listened to is like, no. I would go and play 1E Pathfinder before I played 2E Pathfinder.
Totally, yeah.
2E Pathfinder is a pretty clever legacy board game. That's like the only way I can approach it.
Yeah.
The only time I ever think about when to play it, it's like, it's kind of neat as a board game, but outside of that, I can't imagine this as an RPG experience, because there's just, you're stopping
I guess I just
every
don't
few seconds,
understand
a
it
lot more
because,
math, do a lot more calculation.
yeah. Well, they talk about like, well, it's got this 3 action economy, and I'm like, well, that's great, but everything you do is an action. So like, are you really gaining anything? I don't think so. Like, I don't know. It's not for me. And crunchy systems as a whole are not for me. So I don't have the brain power for it.
That 3 action thing was a direct response to 5th edition's like action, bonus action, reaction system, which is all messed up in its own way, right? Yeah.
It's awful.
So it's much better than that. But it's not a fun experience that I would aim towards, right?
No, it just doesn't seem it. It doesn't. I mean, again, it doesn't have to be. I'm not trying to pick on Paizo or even Wizards, because I at ShireCon I played a demo session of Against the Dark Master, which is like a roll master light, they did a great job running it. The books are super awesome as far as like the art is great, but it's just not the system for me, because I don't like a lot of crunch.
So just real quick on Reforged, one of the issues I have is the small changes within a spell. So on the CNC Discord, someone brought up Rope Trick, and I think all of us here know what Rope Trick does. You throw the rope up. And when the spell ends after like 8 hours, everything falls out of it.
Yeah.
Or dispelled.
Not this one.
Yeah, with Reforged, it's now your like little portable home.
Yeah.
That is exactly how
George, let's not go too much into the party can basically use it as a portable hole or a bag of holding, because I don't think my players have fully realized that yet. So
some of us have. Some of us just haven't told the wizard.
Yeah.
So for example, the light spell has changed a little bit. If you cast light on an object, in the old days, if you went into darkness, the light spell was nullified. It just simply didn't work.
Magical darkness.
Yeah. And now it makes the area dim. It's a small change, but it's a change.
Well, light always has to triumph over the darkness, so that's the dim light.
Oh boy,
the math.
I'm out.
I think it's Bless. Bless has changed from, it used to give a +1 to hit and a +1 bonus to saving throws against fear. Now, anyone within earshot and friendly to the caster gets a +1 on all attribute checks, saving throws, and hit rolls.
I know that Prayer does that. Prayer does that. Does Bless do that?
Yeah.
Here, I have the book in front of me. I shall
check it out. But look at Bless's the short entry in the spell list, and then look at Bless's longer entry that describes it. That's one of the ones where it's different in both places.
Yeah.
But that's the one that got me. That there was some game where I was like, what does this actually do? And I gotta go look this up.
And unless you're a DM who takes the time to really read through, and I totally agree with Stan on his prior point about, you almost need to be experienced with a whole like library behind you to run CNC at times. On the flip side, they've tweaked it a little bit. You almost need to not have that knowledge in your head anymore. It's a little bit different now.
Yeah. Yeah, that hits me. Like, I'm looking through spells and stuff, and I'm like, where is this spell? And it's because they switched the name a little bit. And I'm like, oh, well, okay. Or it doesn't. I don't get spells as much because I don't use the Reforged Player's Handbook. But like magic items, they change some of the names, they tweaked, and I'll be like, I swear to God that this item was in here.
Yeah.
And then I'll be 5 pages over, and I'm like, oh, this is what it is now. That's the one thing I don't like about the Reforged Monsters and Treasures book.
And they were
I
supposed
like
to
the monster section of it. I don't like the treasure part of it as much.
Yeah, they were supposed to come up with a list of the changes of spells. I don't know if they were going to do the monsters and treasures part, but like old name, new name, it would be nice.
Spells I didn't like at all. Like in practice, like playing in that game last weekend, I was like, not. I'm glad I don't have the player's handbook because I'm like,
Yeah.
Nope, I would find an older one on eBay to use.
It's funny because those complaints are only, and I'm not discounting it because I have the same complaints, but those complaints are only people that have played older editions of the game.
Right, somebody new would be like, "Oh, okay, I guess this is how it's done," and we're like, "No, it's not."
Yeah. And then they would go to play like an OSR game. And
what is this?
You're like, oh, I cast detect magic or whatever, and they're like, what? And then you'd have to explain to them, and they'll be like, oh, that's called discern magic. Why are you saying detect?
Old man.
What are you doing? Yeah, it's different. What I will say, someone was talking. I think it was Joe was talking about their art earlier, and I have to give him credit. Like sometimes the art in the book is hit or miss. There's some good stuff. They're covered, like the new covers and stuff.
Yes.
They're
covers that are.
They've been doing the homage covers.
Yeah.
The homage covers. But even like, I thought like I was totally disappointed with the weapons book as well. But the cover for it, badass.
And the interior art, the stat changes annoy the crap out of me, but the interior art of the armor and weapons, I'm like, that's great.
I like the monster weapon one. I think it's like a Merilith holding like 4 different swords or something. It's pretty cool.
Their cover art and some of the stuff they've released, pictures of for the stuff that they're developing, the Gygax stuff and all that. Man, there's some covers on that stuff that very, very impressive.
Until you realize that the Merilith is only going to do 1d3 damage with those with those cool looking swords, and then you realize it's better off biting people.
Funny story about that. One of my players, he likes stuff like that. Even though he plays a wizard, he was interested in the weapons book. So he sends me a message one day, and he's like, "Hey, I downloaded the sample PDF they have for that book." He's like, "Are those weapon damages accurate?" And I'm like, yeah. He goes, what? He goes, I thought they just changed them so people wouldn't pirate it off their site.
They forgot to change it. Yeah, that's what it is.
I'm like, no, those I can't figure. I don't know why. Why you would use the Saxon short bow that does 1d3 damage over a regular short bow?
Does 1d2 damage.
I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And
so I do have an answer for that question.
So he didn't. Needless to say, he didn't buy the book. And then the other thing that was weird about that book, that all the prices were in silver.
Yeah.
Now,
interesting.
That makes sense if the entire game wasn't based on gold. Like it would make more sense to have the game's currency be like copper and silver because that would be more common. But that's not what the game's built around. It's built around the gold piece. So
$1.
Why is everything in silver?
It's so that whole book you can just shoehorn the entire thing into any Mork board game without conversion.
So
I've never
the
played
1d3 damage.
So
the 1d3 damage is a thing because I don't know if you guys have ever played Monster Hunter, but it's not about the stat bonuses you get. It's how cool you look. So okay, you're doing 1d3, but you look awesome.
How much silver is it to make it a glowing red dagger, though? I want to point out something here that I've just noticed as an innocent bystander. At one point, there was a complaint that all the splat books make characters more powerful, and now there's a complaint that the splat books make characters less powerful. I just think you guys like complaining. That's what I think is going
I
on.
was accused of that last time, and I will refute that. No, my problem with this, all jokes aside, my problem with this is that this book takes pre-existing weapons, and it even says this in the forward. It talks about how it has taken pre-existing weapons and it's changed them to enhance the new weapons. And like I immediately looked at a longsword because that's the most common. Short sword, longsword. Right. What you got? Longsword is still D8 in the Adventurer's Armory. So I was like, okay, good. But then I'm looking at other swords and they're doing like the katana does 1d6, and I was like, no. And so I'm like, okay, let me check out the bows. Like I said when we were all talking, the crossbow does 1d2 damage. A sling bullet apparently does more damage than a crossbow. The crossbow was outlawed by the Pope in medieval ages because it was killing knights left and right.
But a slingstone took out a giant.
That's fair. Yeah.
It was a crit. That's all it was. It was a crit.
As soon as you are blessed by the Jewish God, you too may single strike a giant.
That's right.
the trick. Bless your crossbow.
That's right.
No problem.
So yeah. So anyway, I just that book, and I found my PDF. I still haven't found my hard copy. I don't know where the hell it went to. But yeah, that really annoyed me a lot.
Yeah, I was not impressed. I was really bummed because I was looking forward to those books. And
me too, man. I was like, oh, all these cool ass weapons. Even if every sword in the book only does 1d8, what Joe just said. Look at this cool sword I've got.
Yeah,
right.
And look at this cool sword I've got that does 1d8 damage, even though the book says it does 1d3.
And like I said earlier, though, that's kind of like where I'm at. Like if somebody said, I know we had like the thing in game, we had the big discussion about a Chris, right? And like whether it was, I'm like, no, it's like a large dagger, like a large wavy ceremonial dagger, and I called it a Chris. And then there was like a whole like thing in game where we like looked up what a Chris was. And like,
no, that was you and me after the game. It was like 10 o'clock at night going back and forth about what a Chris is.
Going back and forth trying to figure out whether it should be 1d4 or 1d6 damage. And ultimately I was like, okay, we're just going to, it's bigger than a dagger. We're just going to count it as a short sword. It does 1d6 damage.
1d6. Good to go.
And that's like it, right? Like, and I like Jason and I will get into it like a lot with like, the minutia of things.
That's the exact word I was going to use.
Shouldn't in the game. Yeah. But and that's where I am like on the weapons. So like if somebody wants to look in that book and say, oh, hey, here's this cool looking sword or whatever, like fine, it does a d8 damage or it does a d6 damage. Like, is it one-handed? Okay, it does 1d6 damage. Mm-hmm. Is it like possibly one or two-handed? Like, okay, then it counts as a longsword. It's 1d8. Like I don't care, anything. So that's that. But and so that's how I roll. I don't care, I don't care. It's just, we only got so many dice to use, right? Like it's either going to be a D4, a D6, or a D8. Or a D10 or 12, whatever.
I'm kind of surprised they didn't do weapon properties like, bonus against natural hides or, weird stuff like that.
So it's interesting that like they did that in AD&D, and we can always use that chart, and I considered using it because it is cool. I don't know if there's a supplement. George, do you know of a supplement or anything that's out there for that?
You could use Combat and Tactics for Players Options, 2nd edition.
Yeah, right. But I mean, there's nothing specific for CNC.
No,
The Adventurer's Army actually has that. At the end of every weapon description, they have characteristics.
Oh,
and
okay.
Some of them have none. Some of them have a +1 to damage. Some have a +1 versus mounted or what have you.
Yeah. The problem with that, and so I mean, I like that about AD&D because it basically made the fighter better, because the fighter's ability to be able to use any weapon is very minimized nowadays. Where, I mean, it still means something but generally they pick one weapon and they stick with it. Whereas like in AD&D, like it mattered, that they had several different weapons on them to be able to use against, different armor types and things like that. and I think that's cool. And I don't know, I considered like bringing that back, but then it's just one more thing that I would have to have the players track, and I think half my group wouldn't be interested in tracking that, which would mean that I'd have to track it. And I mean, I'm trying to do, as least as possible behind the DM screen,
Same.
I mean, not that I'm trying to be lazy, but I'd rather do, more creative stuff back there than have to worry about, the minutia, right? To bring that up again,
I would highly recommend Hyperborea. Like Jeff Flamian, he has damage. He has damage reduction in there. Very simple,
it's right
and it's
there.
on the player to memorize it.
Yeah. That's
if
true.
you don't do your DR, it's your fault.
I,
as the DM, will use my DR as much as possible.
We almost
Go ahead.
go ahead. We almost switched to Hyperborea instead of CNC. Like we were going to do it
That close.
and
I still
and
play it.
so I think it's great.
And on that note, we also came that close to doing Joe Block's AD&D.
Yes.
We just felt that the price point was too high for some of the people at the table.
Yeah.
Sure.
It had nothing to do with the quality of the product, because Joe, you made a hell of a product, dude. The AD&D is amazing.
Absolutely.
Not that he's ever going to see this video or whatever.
No,
I
but
think
if he
you
does,
take
and
the page
if
count
anybody's
and divide it by
watching,
the price, it's a good value.
he did drop the Adventures Dark and Deep Light that just came out, and it's pretty cool. No, pick it up, buy it, really get it. It's cool stuff. So thanks for all you do, Joe.
Yeah, he does some good stuff. I have a couple of his books.
We can get this, which is not light, because
No.
it's huge.
No, not like no.
That's a beast. I want to get
Sorry, man. Go ahead.
No,
I was
Joe,
gonna say-
good.
I was going to say
Go
earlier
ahead.
that I think the driving force in whatever game I pick to run nowadays is how little can I do to make a good game behind the scenes. This is after the years of 5e or Pathfinder trying to like balance things and plan things and pick loot and blah blah blah. Now it's just like, okay, how much can the players keep track of? And if they forget it, that's on them. Like you were saying with the DR, I love the idea of them tracking the DR. So I just tell them, that's the damage. What do you want to do about it? And if they forget, they forget, and I don't care.
Yeah.
Next monster.
Yeah, no, it's not my. I agree, because like when you're running a game, you got juggling a lot of plates.
Yep.
And it's on them to remember their abilities. It's not on me to remember them for them. So if they forget, I mean, it's different if you have like somebody that's brand new. Obviously, you're going to help them out.
Oh,
and,
sure, yeah.
make it a game for them. But after a while, if they don't remember, that's not my problem. That's their problem.
It's how you learn to play.
Yep.
Yeah.
It also is an indication of the things they think are fun. The things they remember are the things they think are fun. So if they're having fun with what they remember, cool. You don't think DR's that interesting? That's cool.
Yeah. George, have you ever used the online character or the app
No, not at all.
character builder?
No.
So
to me, it's just so easy to make a character. Why?
Sure. So Joe, I believe, bought it and has tried to use it.
It was like I think it was like $10 or $12 or something. So it wasn't like breaking the bank, but what was it? I had so many questions about like the EV or something, or carrying capacity when it's first starting out. I was like, it'd be great if there was just like a character generator. It would do all the weights and measurements for me and stuff. And so I like looked on like the internet. I just Googled it, and you go to the Trollard site, and they have it. You can buy it on their site, and you can just do it on your computer. And I thought it like saved to like a web server or something, but I think it saves to like your cookies, because I found out there was an app on the phone as well, right? So I just download the app, I made my character on one of my characters on. I don't think it was the first character that we would switch over. I think we did that in paper. But oh my god, my cat's going off. So I had forgot my character sheet one day, and I was like, "Oh, thank God, I have the character sheet right on my phone." And I brought it up, and the only character I had was the one who, because of we're doing real time, I couldn't play that character because he was like 2 weeks in the future or something like that. And I was like, "Where are all my other characters?" I thought it was a web app, and it was just saving locally or whatever. So then I loaded up the app on my phone, not the app, but the website, and it wasn't there either, like on the actual Troll Lords login and all that. So I was like, okay, so I must just saved like a cookie in the browser or something, and then like it isn't, we're playing like the Reforged one. That's what's called, right? Reforged?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
Reforged.
and all the spell names are the old spell names from, I guess, the previous edition.
And they're probably not going to update it. You can look, but I don't think it's going to be all that supported. Yeah, I'm just guessing, but I would say probably not.
Yeah, that's kind of why I was hesitant to even bring it up. But I mean, I'm sure if we were playing the regular 10th edition or whatever, it'd be like a little bit better. But if knowing that, once I figured that out, I was just like, okay, well, I'll just copy things over, and I'll have duplicates on both my phone app and the web browser. But then after a while, since the spell names were all different and it's like a pain in the butt to look them up, I was just like, all right, I'll just,
so in the epic words of Conan's father, this you can trust.
There you go. There you go. So George, you haven't switched to Reforged. You're still running
Classic.
The classic, is that what we're calling it?
Yep.
So you do that at the conventions and everything else. Do you think that you'll ever switch? I mean, is there ever a time, or are you just content to stay there? You have enough books to get your group by, and that's it.
I have more than enough books. I must have 12 or, all right, I'll just say 20 old player handbooks to get by with. So right there, I'm good. All my players have books, and so I'm very firmly set in Classic. And look, I have a lot of their modules and things like that.
Sure.
I don't want to repurchase a lot more than I need to. Maybe if Reforged gets edited and it's nailed down tight, maybe then. But I got so much here I can use and work with. And I'm the younger guy. I got 55. I'm 54. 10 more years to retirement. I don't know if I want to be going out buying all new books and stuff. I bought more than my share of books for.
I hear you, and like I mentioned earlier, we switched to Reforged, or went with Reforged because it was a new system for everybody, and so they were going to have to buy books, and I didn't want to have to buy a bunch of old books, used books, or whatever. We're going to be maybe different printings, and so maybe page numbers are a little bit different, or little wordings are a little bit different and things.
And just like Stan had mentioned, that we know the spells. I know my group. They would have a field day ripping into CNC. Looking at Cirrus Dwayne here on this one, but they would have a field day ripping into I cast detect. Oh wait, hold on, discern magic, or hold humanoid rather than storms.
George, it happens at my table constantly.
Yeah, and what?
Somebody will say detect magic, and somebody will always be like, oh, it's discern.
Yeah. And you know what? That alone is too much of a nuisance for me at my game.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to deal with it on so many levels, and it sounds really petty. And it is petty, but it would be it's a pebble in my shoe that I don't need.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing too for me is thinking of it like I'm overall I'm happy with the classic CNC because I've been running it for 3 years. And looking back as a kid, we were always we'd always go to the next edition of D&D. We didn't really go to second from AD&D because I just didn't. I was kind of put off that there was no demons and devils in it immediately, so I was like,
yeah,
lame.
true.
But we kept chasing every edition, right? Like I got dragged into third edition by the guys I played with because they were all switching to it, and I was still running AD&D. We kept chasing these editions, and I was like, just because it's the newest thing, it doesn't always mean it's better. Like a lot of times it isn't. I mean, and I don't, like George said, like I have tons of stuff. Like I don't need to chase like another edition of this game. I have the edition that I like it. Like, I mean, I'm running it. I like it. It actually made me feel like coming out of my, several years of fifth edition, like I was actually playing D&D again. Like,
Yeah.
because I definitely didn't feel that way running fifth edition. So, and if I wanted to do something different, I would just go to something different. Like, I'd go to Hyperborea or like I have one group, we do play different games. We play 6 or 8 sessions of a game and then somebody else runs a different game. So like we're playing Old School Essentials right now. And
that is awesome.
We just played Dragon Slayer and, we're going to do DCC probably next after this. So I don't, and I'll always probably accumulate stuff. I'll probably never stop buying stuff, but like I should be a little bit more selective in what I'm acquiring. And is it really benefiting me and the groups that I run for and stuff? And I didn't see it with Reforge. I mean, I like I said before, I was immediately put off with the way the spells work. And then one session of doing it, my belief for me was confirmed. Like I do not like it. I would not be happy with that player's handbook.
Yeah, and like I said, we went to it because we had new players, and they needed.
That makes sense. And that was the other thing too. I didn't mention that. Like when that came out, like my group, who I drug away from 5th edition, and some of them were not. They weren't like openly like against it, but they were very hesitant. They weren't sure how CNC was going to play out. But all those guys in my group eventually bought, I think almost all of them own players' handbooks. And then Reforged comes out and I'm like, well, I'm not going to buy it. And I'm certainly not going to buy it and then ask these guys, or I wouldn't even have asked them, but like now we're going to have 2 different books at the table. Like we do have different printings, but they are, those work pretty much the same. Yeah. But like with Reforged and like looking up a spell and it's different, like I didn't want that. Like George said, it's an extra headache that I didn't want at my table. Yeah. And I certainly wasn't going to be like, oh, we're switching to this edition of it. Like, no, sorry.
Yeah, it was interesting when we were playing Basic because not in the recent, I mean, years ago, because, like I had bought books from Basic, modules, and we bought some AD&D books and, even a couple, like I said, 2nd edition stuff. And we were just, we weren't playing exactly by the rules or whatever, but it was all kind of just there. We just used all the books that we had and just different rules and different things but it all seemed to work together. And then when 3rd edition came out, that's when they really like everything was a completely different thing.
Totally different.
There wasn't a direct, there wasn't a direct, correlation for things. And so, and obviously so we decided, okay, let's start fresh with this. And that was, that same kind of thing we did with Reforged, but, cause it's there and, and I don't know. I mean, I think about it all the time, whether we should have, and, just did what George did and just, buy up a bunch of, 9th printing, 8th, 9th printing books, and just, waited for them to go on sale and bought a bunch of them and then just had enough, you get 10 of them. That's enough for a game table, right? Like to play and then just use that forever. But I don't know. I don't know if that's, I mean, of course I'm not going to do that now because everybody at my table bought a new
Right.
player's handbook. So I'm not going to say, hey, we're going to, go back and do this other thing. But yeah. So what, does anybody else have anything else they want to add before we're almost at the 3-hour mark? So,
and Riley wasn't even here to ask us 500 questions.
Yeah, right. Right. So, yeah, good stuff. No, does anybody want to mention anything else? And like I said, I just want to reiterate again, right? Like, we're not saying that CNC is a bad system. I think we all like it. We all enjoy it. We all play it. I think it's wonderful. I definitely want to use Amazing Adventures for some stuff and whatnot. And I think that's going to be a blast, I think, to run. And we got to play with Jason Vey a little bit, and he's just awesome to talk to and play with. Very soft spoken at the game table, which it was hard to hear him at Page because it's loud in there. But yeah, no, great guy. But does anybody have anything else they want to mention about CNC?
I have to say, like, I was impressed with the game. Well, not fully impressed with the game. The first time I picked up CNC, I was going through it, and I came to this page with the CNC logo.
Mm-hmm.
And that just blew me away. I was like, these guys are like really old school in ways. You know what I mean? It's like they got this, and I flipped through the book, and I really did like the art. I didn't care for the Ranger at first. It was that red-haired guy with the 2 weapons or whatever. And I'm like, that's not. And then, like, I'm looking at the Ranger. I start reading it, and I'm like, this is a really badass Ranger,
There it is.
The
best version ever.
Yep.
Yeah. And reading the description, he's a woodsman, a spy, a scout, just laying into it. And the descriptions of the class really caught me. The funny part is I got home with the 4th printing. That's the green cover and real paper, nice book.
Mm-hmm.
And we were playing Pathfinder at the time. I set the book aside. I go to Gen Con the following year again, and I pick up the 5th printing. And I bring it home, and I'm like starting to read through, and I'm like, hey, this seems familiar. Like this whole siege system. And I'm standing there with 2, books.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is like Destiny or something. And with that, I started reading into it, and we had a session 0 coming up for Pathfinder 1. And the folks were around the table discussing their characters. And it was a mega min-maxing moment where they're like, I'm going to take this trait to get an extra +1 to initiative, and I'm going to do this. And they're sharing, and, they were having a great bonding experience. And after they left, I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not playing Pathfinder anymore. And I pulled out the CNC book, and I'm like, this is what we're going with, and that's how I made the switch over, because it took off all that overhead. I remember trying to make like frost giants, double damage from fireball. They were going in after the fire giants. They were loaded up on fireball. And I was like, this isn't fun. And someone's like, oh, you have to give them the Inferno trait or Infermium that, they're immune to fire. And I'm like, now I'm like building stuff up to defeat the purpose of the, I realized it was such an arms race playing Pathfinder and 3.5.
Yeah.
Yes.
And with this, it just stripped it all down. And it had cool artwork.
Yeah,
I had
absolutely.
Similar experience coming from 5th edition. I was just like done, and I just said, we're switching to this. And it's funny because, like, my one player that was the most hesitant about it. He was the most skeptical, but to his credit, he's like, I want to give it an honest try. And at the time, my group, two other members of my group were also running 5th edition games that we played online, and my stuff's all in person. And before, he finally gave it an honest try, and he then became the biggest fan of it. And I never said this to anyone, but he would say it in like our group chats and stuff. He's like, we need to switch all of our games to Castles and Crusades.
Wow. Nice.
We need to switch all of them to it. And he was my biggest skeptic. That's the best way to describe my buddy. And the one other guy that was in the group, that he's still in the group, he and I grew up playing D&D together since we were little. Like, it was mostly him and I for years. And when he got the books and started playing it, he said the same thing. He goes, this feels like D&D again. Like, this feels like we're playing D&D again.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge strength to the Castle Crusades and what the Troll Lords have put together for a game, is especially for guys that, know what that's like and like that style of game. I mean, if it's not your style of game, there's a billion other games. Go play them. Be happy. Yeah. But that's, they did do. I mean, I know we probably should have switched it. We should have had the Bitch Fest and then ended on
probably
end on a high. But it's a great game. I mean, it's got a couple rough spots in it, but it's not something that's like unplayable or anything like that. It's got rough spots, but at its core, it is a great game run by really great people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, the system's great. Definitely, anybody that's out there, just definitely, look into it, get it, buy it, support the Troll Lords. They're great guys. I just want to make a couple announcements here quick. I know the Arduin Portal to Adventure Kickstarter. I want to put the link to that in the chat here and see if that actually goes. Hopefully, I think. Oh yeah, that looked like it went.
Yeah.
So those guys are great. The Arduin guys, they're fantastic. They got the Kickstarter that's coming tonight. I believe that is a reprint of the original box set. So that's really cool. I know that I think most of us, George, have you met the Arduin guys?
Were they at Central?
Those guys at CNY? Yeah. They were the big display and with all the miniatures and stuff.
They're awesome.
Those guys. Yeah. Those guys, they're fantastic. They're just fantastic. But they got a Kickstarter. And I'm going to post the link on the CNY page as well. But definitely go out and support them. But CNC, it's fantastic. Hopefully we'll do this again sometime, guys. I don't know if
we should.
Send me anybody in the chat or you guys, whatever, send me topics, whatever you guys want to talk about, or just do every couple weeks we just do an RPG hangout and talk about, whatever. I mean, we got a lot to talk about. We just spent 3 hours trying to discuss CNC. So, but we'll do it again soon. And, we'll see where it goes. So, thanks everybody for coming, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Great. Had a great time. Thanks.
Yeah.
Same.
Hanging out.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.